Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to begin here just shortly. Welcome to the October 28th Social Circle Planning Commission meeting. It is 6 p.m. We do have a full agenda, so I would appreciate everyone if they would listen to some rules and regulations of the Planning Commission when we get started. But before we get to that point, we do have an order of business to conduct. For the roll call, let the record show that Mr. Travis Parr and Mr. Curtis Mullins are absent. All other members are present and accounted for. For the minutes of the meeting from the regular meeting of September 23rd, as any of the commission members that are present have any items that they need to address from those, any omissions, errors, or corrections to be noted? Seeing none, the chair will entertain a motion to approve those meeting minutes as published.
I motion that we.
Ooh. Ms.
I
Brown?
motion that we approve the minutes
Okay, we have a motion
as
to
presented.
approve the minutes from September 23rd, 2025 meeting as presented. Is there a second? And we have a second by Mr. Gaither. All in favor of that motion and second, please signify by raising your hand. Thank you. Motion passed unanimous. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so before we begin our public hearing calendar for tonight, as stated, we do have some rules that we would like to play and ask that you please follow them.
Before we begin this evening, I want to just hit the highlights of the regulations that need to be considered during this meeting. Foremost, for the record to reflect any speakers who wish to respond for or against the application of any item on the agenda, each speaker must sign up to register their intent. If you do not register prior to the commencement of this meeting, you will not be called upon, and you will not be allowed to speak. Each item shall be handled in the order of the published agenda. However, upon motion of the commission, it is possible that the order of the agenda may be changed. Therefore, it is recommended all interested persons remain at the meeting in the event of a change in the order of the agenda. As each agenda item is brought forth, the city staff will present the application, the background of the property involved, and provide a recommendation. After the staff has presented the application, the applicant or applicant's agent will give his or her presentation of the item. The applicant's time is limited to a total of 10 minutes. The applicant may designate any remaining time for rebuttal to any opposition to the application. All registered speakers who wish to speak in favor of the application will then be heard and will also be limited to 10 minutes total, not each. Once the applicant has made his or her presentation to the board and the pro-applicant speakers have been heard, the chair will then call upon registered speakers who wish to speak against the application. The opposition shall likewise be limited to 10 minutes total, not each. After the public comments have been heard, the Planning Commission members will then discuss the request among themselves. Upon motion and second by the members of the commission, an action on the application may be taken to approve with conditions, approval with an alternative zoning district that is lesser than that which was advertised, or deny. These matters are sometimes hotly contested and can result in highly adversarial positions among the participants in attendance. This meeting is not the place for such discussions. Rather, this is a meeting to hear the facts and opinions as presented by all parties. Each public speaker will be called upon by the chair, and each speaker must address the commission. Any conversations between the speaker and other members of the audience not called upon by the chairman shall be deemed out of order. All speakers are expected to conduct themselves in an appropriate manner, and any involvement of personalities or the use of abusive or profane language will not be tolerated.
All right, thank you. Cody, if you'll introduce our first item, it's rezoning 2025-13.
All right. This application has been withdrawn as of October 7th, but the request was to rezone tax parcels SC 21,008, 7, 6, 4, 1, and 21,001 A00 from agricultural to light industrial for a future distribution and wholesale use. Due to issues with the application and major changes to the application after it being submitted, the applicant had decided to withdraw his application.
Okay,
So there just needs to be a motion to accept it.
so we won't necessarily need a public hearing on this request, although the chair will ask for a motion to recommend mayor and council for the withdrawal of this request.
Motion.
We have a motion to withdraw by, I'm sorry. Okay, we have a motion to withdraw and a second. All those in favor of the motion signify by raising your hand. Thank you. Motion passed unanimous. All right, the next request, maybe it will go as fast as that first one, is a rezoning 2025 of 14. Cody, would you introduce that for us, please?
All right. All right, this is the request to rezone 662 Wildwood Drive, also known as tax parcels SC 09001B00 and SC 09001-8B00 from agricultural to residential District 15 as part of a proposed single-family neighborhood development. The proposed development would also include tax parcels SC 0900019 and 20. However, both of these parcels are already zoned as R15. The intent of the development is to meet housing needs within the city limits while also complying with the city's comprehensive plan and future land use map, as well as feedback received from the community on a previous rezone application. The applicant originally submitted a rezone request that included these properties back in February of this year, also known as REZ 2025003, when attempting to rezone from ag to R15 and R15 to residential medium density for proposed townhome development. However, the applicant ultimately withdrew their application prior to mayor or council issuing a decision on the application. The current proposal appears to attempt to address concerns that were expressed by the community in the previous application by removing the townhome aspect and focusing solely on single-family detached use. As shown on the proposed site plan, Exhibit A, the proposed development would consist of approximately 24 single-family detached homes, along with an open space and stormwater pond as well. As part of the permitting process, the applicant will be required to submit preliminary and final plats for approval, as well as civil plans to be reviewed to ensure that all development and dimensional requirements are being met as outlined in the city's Unified Development Code. There would also be a community association as part of the proposed development as well. The applicant held a community meeting virtually on October 6th, in which there were 4 members of the public present that called into the meeting. During the meeting, it was acknowledged that the new proposal was a significant decrease in density to what was originally proposed as part of the previous rezone application. A few of the attendees seemed to indicate that they would prefer the development to have fewer homes with potentially 2-acre minimums. There were questions about existing easements and stormwater management as well, to which the applicant stated that the development would be serviced via underground power and would not affect the current power pole easement, and the proposed location of the drainage pond at the front of the property was intended to accommodate natural flows by placing it at the lowest elevation. As outlined in Table 2.1.5 of the UDC, the minimum lot size for properties with R15 zoning designation is 15,000 square feet, or approximately 0.34 acres. While there are similar zonings as to what is being requested adjacent to the proposed development, the average lot size in the area tends to be greater than the minimum that is required for R15 zonings. Hickory Meadows subdivision, which is adjacent to the proposed development, has an average lot size of 0.43 acres, while similar properties in the immediate vicinity along Wildwood Drive have an average lot size of approximately 0.6 acres. Please note that the formula used to calculate the average lot size of similar properties along Wildwood Drive did not include the applicant's property nor those with a lot size greater than that of 1 acre, so as not to skew the data. There is also ag zoning in the area and directly adjacent to the properties, as well as R25 zoning as well. There is a 6-inch water main in the area. However, there is some level of concern as to whether or not there is adequate volume and pressure needed to support the proposed development. The concern about adequate water volume also includes the need to support fire flow as well. Additionally, there's gravity-fed sewer located on the property. However, the developer would be responsible for locating that line closer to the property line prior to beginning any construction. With regard to the stormwater management, there are drainage issues present on the property. Therefore, the ditches would need to be improved and curb and gutter would need to be installed as part of the proposed development. The roadways are currently only 14.5 feet wide and would be unable to support emergency vehicle traffic as well as school bus traffic for the proposed development. The developer would be responsible to addressing all infrastructure concerns and required improvements. The range of uses is in line with the surrounding zoning districts with regard to residential and single-family detached uses. The proposed rezone would address a specific need by bringing more housing into the city. The proposed zoning does not appear that it would adversely affect the existing use of the property nor that of adjacent or nearby properties. However, there would be a potential strain on infrastructure such as roads and utilities due to increase in residential capacity. The proposal is compatible in terms of matching the character of the area as indicated on the future land use map, as it's identified as a neighborhood character area. Again, as mentioned, the sewer would need to be relocated closer to the property line. and the water line would need to be upsized from a 6-inch line to at least an 8-inch line. However, engineers would need to conduct flow testing in the area to determine the exact size needed to support the proposed development, as there are also concerns about inadequate water volume in the area. The roads would require installation of curb and gutter in the area, and ditches would need to be pulled, as previously mentioned, to assist with drainage. And lastly, also as previously mentioned, there are concerns with regard to public safety as it pertains to emergency and school vehicle accessibility due to roadway width. Staff recommends approval of the request to rezone tax parcels SC 090018B00 and SC 090010B00 from agricultural to residential District 15 with the following conditions. Condition 1, minimum lot sizes and setback requirements for the proposed development shall be equivalent to those outlined in Table 2.1.5 of the UDC for residential District 25 zoning. Number of lots, Condition 2, number of lots for the proposed development shall be capped at 15 lots. Condition 3, the developer will be responsible for bringing the portion of Wildwood Drive that lies directly in front of the proposed development up to the current standards outlined in Section 9.2 of the UDC to include the installation of curb and gutter. And Condition 4, applicant must obtain a letter from the city's engineer to confirm that city utilities have the capacity for the project to include fire flow prior to beginning any development.
Thank you, Cody. I do have a couple questions. During the review of this development, you did talk about the need for road improvements. Wildwood is very narrow at 14.5 foot. What is the right-of-way along Wildwood from Hickory Drive south towards the subject property?
I'm not entirely sure off the top of my head.
Okay, I think I heard somebody say 30 foot, so you did a good job. All right, at this time, we'll call upon the applicant. Ms. Gray, I believe you're here representing the applicant.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
There should be a clicker up there.
All right, well, good evening, everyone. I'm Andrea Gray. This evening, I have the pleasure of representing JMS Properties with regard to the request to rezone 10.09 acres from Ag to R15 for a single-family residential development called Wildwood. Oops. The property is located obviously on Wildwood Drive. It's bordered to the east by the CSX Railroad. It's about 0.7 miles from downtown Social Circle. That's measured from the well, so definitely walkable to downtown. And this shows a little bit better with the adjoining properties. So this property is bordered really on 3 sides by properties that are already zoned R15, which is the zoning that we're requesting. So we're asking to be consistent with those properties that are around us. We're asking to rezone 2 parcels because 2 of the parcels that will be part of this overall development are already zoned R15, and those are the ones adjacent to Wildwood Drive. And again, you can see here the arrows pointing to our properties, both zoned ag, that we're requesting to be changed. Sorry, keep going backwards. The future land use map, as mentioned by Cody, we are in the neighborhood character area, so what we're requesting is fitting within your future land use plan, even as amended. And Cody did mention too the history, and I know you all remember that we were here back in February. We filed the application for 90 townhomes in January. We had a very intensive community meeting where we got a lot of feedback about that the neighbors didn't want townhomes. They wanted a less dense development, and we really took that to heart. We came before you and presented, but we had asked to withdraw or to be tabled, and ultimately decided to withdraw to have more time to redo the site plan, which is the one that we've presented to you tonight. So we've gone from 90 townhomes down to 24 single-family lots, which is our understanding of what our adjoining property owners would have liked. The site plan, as you've seen, again, 24 detached homes. We've got 1 road coming in off of Wildwood. The applicant is happy to make the road improvements along its property boundary that were requested by staff. Our road has 3 different cul-de-sacs, which are attractive to buyers. We have the mail kiosk centered there on the property. We will comply with all ordinance requirements. Your ordinance really does a good job of setting the standards for housing quality and size with regard to two-car garages, no vinyl siding, sidewalks, the brick or stone water table. We will meet with all those. We're not asking for any variances whatsoever on our plan. Again, ordinance requirements of 1,600 square feet minimums, and again, we're asking for the R15 designation, which is 15,000 square foot lot sizes to go with our 24 homes here. And here's representative photographs of what the homes would look like, mostly two-story, but again, meeting all ordinance requirements, a variation in styles, and brick and stone accents as required. We did hold a community meeting this October for this new application. It's interesting, the community meeting we held back in January, February, we did in person, and we got comments that, well, so-and-so couldn't come because they were at work, and so-and-so was at the soccer field with their kids, and so we thought, well, good, we'll do virtual, this time. And we had 4 people attend, which was great, and one actually was at work and was able to attend because we did it virtually. But fewer people were in attendance at this meeting. But I think there's a gratefulness that we did reduce the density of this development significantly, less than a third of what we had proposed before. But Cody did mention the comments, and we were able to work with the adjoining property owner regarding concerns about placements of easements, and with the water runoff and the location of the detention pond at the front of the property. We did receive the staff comments when they were published, I guess, at some point last week. Again, my client's happy to make the improvements to the road along his property line, and then to work with the city on the needed utility infrastructure as far as moving the sewer line on his property, and then exploring the water line issues that were mentioned here. But we do object to reducing the number of lots down to 15 lots. We would ask that the true R15 designation that allows for 24 lots be approved. We ask that we be treated fairly and consistently with other R15 developments that have been approved in the city. We're not asking for any variances. We just want the true R15 designation. We really don't see where the reduction of 9 homes really has a substantial benefit to the city, and really feel like it's an arbitrary request on behalf of staff. And we would ask that this Planning Commission board approve our request for just R15 with the 24 home lots. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions and reserve the balance of my time for rebuttal.
Okay. At this time, are there any questions of Ms. Gray as the applicant? Okay. Maybe have some questions later, Ms. Gray?
Yes, sir, thank you.
Cody, are there anyone who'd like to signed up to speak in favor of this request? All right, we have a Daniel Johnson who signed up to speak in favor of this request. Mr. Johnson, if you'll come to the podium and state your name and address for us, please.
Daniel Johnson. I live at 3050 Malin Smith Road. I'm the manager of JMJMS. I'm the one who brought it in February. We're the one who purchased the property with the greenhouses on it, and we kind of understand why the greenhouses, and we understand the roads there were narrow too at the time. And that was part of the greenhouse, really, reason he couldn't do business there. He couldn't get his trucks in and out. So we understand some of that concern, but that road has always been that way. And, when I brought this back in, we kind of listened to everybody, and we brought it back into single family. And, I come up here and met Cody when they brought the 15 lots out for us. I just don't understand the change and kind of making a zoning up when there's already rules in place, So I'm just trying to figure out why the 15 homes, we say it's consistent to that area. But if you pull 2 little subdivisions, yes, it's consistent. But if you pull just a mile diameter, it's very consistent with that area. So I want to understand why the 15.
Okay.
That's kind of it.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir. And there's no one else to speak in favor of this request. We do have a few folks that'd like to speak in opposition, and I'll just go in order. Vance Burgess.
Good evening. Chair and members of the Planning Commission, my name is Vance Burgess, and my family and I own property directly across the street from the land that's the subject of this request. I was one of those four at the community meeting. I am here to respectfully oppose the request to change the zoning from agricultural to residential R15. Under the current agricultural zoning, the minimum lot size is 5 acres per home. That means the owner could build only 2 houses today. The developer, however, is asking to build 24 houses, moving from 1 home per 5 acre lots to under a ½ acre. This is a 10-fold increase in density, and it's simply too much, too fast, and out of character with the area. We aren't opposed to growth. We understand that Social Circle will continue to grow, but growth should be reasonable and compatible with the surrounding properties. A development with 5 to 10 homes, or roughly no more than 1 home per acre, equivalent to the requirements of the residential medium district or RMD zoning district, would be far more consistent with the established pattern of this neighborhood and the rural character along Wildwood Drive. Even the city's own comprehensive plan, originally adopted in 2022, supports this position. The plan identifies this area within the neighborhood's character area, which lists R15 as a potentially compatible zoning district, but it also emphasizes that the zoning decision should be made case by case, taking into account context and compatibility. This property sits at the transition between agricultural and residential areas, and the plan's guidance is clear. Those transition zones should preserve buffers between farming and neighborhoods and maintain the small town rural feel that defines Social Circle. Approving R15 here would erase that buffer and replace it with one of the densest residential categories allowed in the city, completely inconsistent with the surrounding agricultural and estate residential uses. The plan also calls for directing higher density growth closer to city core and major corridors like the Social Circle Parkway, where infrastructure can handle it, not at the rural edges of town. Wildwood Drive lacks the infrastructure. A subdivision of 24 homes in this location would increase traffic, strain existing utilities, and alter the character of a corridor the plan specifically says should remain low density and scenic. Finally, the plan repeatedly talks about preserving Social Circle's small town charm, rural atmosphere, and separation from urban sprawl. This rezoning moves us in the opposite direction. For all these reasons, the incompatibility with the surrounding land use, the conflict with the plan's emphasis on transition and context, and the excessive density relative to existing development, I respectfully ask you to recommend denial of this rezoning as submitted, or at a minimum, require a much lower density that reflects the intent of the comprehensive plan and the character of this neighborhood. Thank you for your time, your service, and for giving nearby property owners like my family the opportunity to be heard.
Mr. Burgess, for the record, would you state your address, please, sir?
665 Wildwood Drive.
Thank you, sir. Next up is Wendell Pitts.
All I really have to say is the road is the right of way from one side of the ditch to the other side of the ditch is 30 foot. There's no way you can put a 24-foot wide road in there with curbs and gutters. So why are we even talking about this?
Okay.
I'm not selling my property. My neighbor's not selling their property. So, you know, that's my argument.
Okay. And Mr. Pitts, what's for the
577 Wildwood Drive.
Thank you, sir. I have a Joy or Jay Howard, it looks like. Yes, ma'am.
Joy Howard, I live at 532 Hickory Street,
Yes,
Social Circle. Just a few things. As far as, like you said, the road, the bus is not able to come down through there. You cannot meet a car without somebody having to get over. The traffic at the school now is unbearable, trying to get kids to school on time, which they never on time. And adding all this would just be extra kids that would, be going to school. And with already the subdivisions coming from Connor Springs and these over here across from Laurel Oaks is already going to be enough that's already going to populate the school a lot without this coming with this little area being small and the roads being so narrow.
Thank you, ma'am. Marsha Peters?
I live at 641 Wildwood Drive, and my concern, again, would be the traffic. It's already a nightmare trying to get out from Hickory onto Highway 11, and it's like it's been told, every time you meet a car, even on Wildwood or Hickory, you almost have to pull over in order to even get by there. So that's really my concern.
Okay, thank you. I have I'm going to ask Cody to help me out. That last name is Waters, is that right? So, yeah. Jim Waters? All right, somebody at 888 Fair Play.
I think he signed. Yeah, he left.
Oh, all right, well. I'm sorry. Okay. So at this time, we'll have no one else to speak in opposition. Ms. Gray, you have some time for rebuttal?
Yes, sir. I appreciate our neighbors coming out tonight to give their comments on our development here. Although I do respectfully disagree on some of the comments made, and I'm just going to hit the highlights there. Appreciate Mr. Burgess coming out. I know his family has a very long history in this city, and I knew the family very well. I just want to pull back to my site plan here. I think, a point that can't be missed is that this project is surrounded on 3 sides by properties that are zoned R15, and part of our overall development is already zoned R15. And so to say that it's not consistent with the surrounding area, I think is missing the mark a little bit here, given what is already established in this area. As you know, to the south of this property, there's proposed industrial uses coming, and again to our north is primarily residential. There is in fact a buffer between our property and what's coming to the south, and that's Mr. Jones. He's our immediate adjoining property owner to the south, and has a nice place there. We've talked to him a good bit. But I think our development fits very well within this area, and is very much compatible. When you're looking at things on a case-by-case basis, as we heard just a moment ago, this is a transitioning area, and in this case, we are adjoining the Hickory Grove subdivision, which is exactly the homes, the types of lots that we're asking to build here. With regard to the road improvements, again, my client is committed to improving the road as it adjoins his property, and making that something that's passable and usable by these additional 24 homes. And again, same, with the infrastructure. Adding 24 homes is not a substantially high burden on our school system. That's not a lot of kids that we're adding in there, particularly compared to the 90 townhomes that we started with here. We've really reduced the impacts for any, for those types of uses. And just looking at my notes here, I think, I don't think we're going to degrade the small town charm of Social Circle. I think, if anything, we're sharing it with more people that could live here. There's been an identified need for additional housing in this city, and we're trying to meet that. And so, again, we've reduced the plan, but 24 additional homes will fit a need here in this community, and allowing us to go forward with the traditional R15 we think is the best option. And again, we ask for approval of R15 with the 24 home lot site plan versus the conditions requested by staff. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay. I do have some questions, Ms. Gray. And Mr. Johnson, as your client, he is welcome to step up if he'd like. Ms. Gray, you stated in your presentation that your client would be willing to work with or look at the water issue. What detail, I'd like to get specific, what exactly do you intend to do with, if approved, for the water?
Well, we gotta know what the pressure and everything is, and the engineer's gotta decide on what we gotta do first, so I don't think, I think we did a pressure test there. I wanna
400
say,
and-
yeah, I don't remember what the static pressure was, but there's gotta be a lot done there to make that decision too, you know, it's not just something I can get up here and agree to if I don't even know the size and where the pipe's going and what I have to do to pressure
That's
that line.
completely understandable, and that's,
But
again,
we do know I have to replace that sewer line too, you know, and that's a terracotta line.
yep.
So, you know, I am agreeing to fully replace that too, and agreeing to address my road and from property line to property line, you know?
Sure thing. And again, going back to the water, that was a concern that we had in February.
You know, we've worked several times with a lot of municipalities on working this deal out until we know we bought the pipe or labor, we swapped, however, when it leaves our property of working deals, but we just gotta kind of realize what we got before I can sit here and agree to something with you there too.
And here's where I'm getting with that. It's gonna come with a price, and you've gotta decide if that price is worth it. You're asking us to arbitrarily potentially look at recommending changing the zoning of a property, and we don't know what the impact. You may turn around and look at this in 3 months if you get your approval and say, that's gonna be too costly, I'm gonna walk away from this project. And that's your right to do that. We're just trying to get a better understanding of what commitment level it is that would improve the infrastructure.
Well, the owners of JMJMS have owned property in Social Circle since the 1800s. I don't think we're walking away from anything.
Okay,
So,
well, you may walk away from a project if the cost to get the infrastructure to it is too high. That's what I'm getting at.
well, and
And,
we've spent $40,000 or $50,000 to get to where we're at right now. too.
Sure.
So we understand the cost.
okay,
Trust me.
well, and then we're gonna talk cost, let's talk about the road improvement. Again, one of the requirement, or one of the concerns in February was the narrow road. I'm grateful that you're coming back to us with a plan that's a little more acceptable in terms of compatibility of the surrounding area, but we still got an issue of a narrow road. You don't own the right-of-way, the city doesn't have right-of-way between your property and Hickory. It's gonna put the burden on the city to turn around and acquire right-of-way to make improvements to accommodate any growth in the
I
area.
don't believe 24 Homes is gonna do that, sir.
It
There's
starts
a
with
difference
24,
of
well,
opinion,
and that's completely your opinion, but I'm looking at, more greenfield below your site that, again, it crawls, it creeps, the expansion of development occurs.
Well, we already have a piece of our property already zoned. We're just asking for the zone, same zoning.
And I'm
beside
not
it here.
disagreeing with you, that, sir.
And-
I'm just asking you, again, these are our concerns. And that might be, I haven't asked Cody, that might be why his staff recommendation is for 15 lots, is because of the potential impact upon the existing roadway and infrastructure.
I understand that, and we're disagreeing with that.
Okay. So, any other questions of the applicant that the planning commission may have? No? Okay.
Right.
Thank you so much. All right. So, as the planning commission, we have a opportunity to recommend approval of the request as proposed to R15. The staff has made some recommendations. Believe we heard another option that is afforded to us, and that is we can recommend of a zoning district lesser than what's requested. That would be RMD or R25. Is that correct, Cody?
Well, in RMD, single-family detached homes are not allowed.
Okay,
So,
well, I guess not.
yeah,
I guess it'd be
so-
R25 or the R15 as requested. So, any discussion? Any thoughts on the proposed rezoning?
So if we pass it, it's not, the road's not that wide. The the roads are not, the road is not that wide, so how would the people get to the house?
Well, and that's, again, one of my concerns as well is the developer would be required to widen the road on his side of the property for just the frontage of his property. But from his property on to Hickory, it's still a 14.5-foot wide road with a 30-foot right-of-way. So the opportunity for expansion up to Hickory is not there, and that's a concern I have. I'm not necessarily opposed to the R15. I'm not opposed to the staff's conditions. I've got concern, however, of the infrastructure, even at 15 homes. You talk 2 cars per house, sometimes 3 cars per house. That's potentially, 30 to 45 trips per day on Wildwood. So that's something to consider at 15 lots, and then you double that for 24. During construction, heavy construction, whether it's site development, whether it's home construction, Wildwood's going to get beat up quite substantially. It's not in the best shape as it is now, but it's the zoning change, the request does make sense. The conditions to me seem consistent with the area around it. I've just got concern about that road and about the water. Yeah. That's my thoughts.
Mine is the water pressure also, because you asked me about the water pressure test.
Yeah. And,
See, not,
well, and I do see from some of the comments from review from the fire, available water for fire suppression in the development, the latest flow test at a nearby hydrant was 483 gallons per minute. By the time you tie in more residential houses on that, that's going to drop the available water pressure. It's not ideal, but I think the water is a likely an easier solution on resolving more so than the road. I don't want to put the current residents of the city on the hook for making a road improvement for a development. That's just, I think a development should be able to pay for the improvements and the impact that it's creating. And I do believe that this developer understands that with the water and is available to him and can make that much more easier than the road improvements. I wish it was cut and dry and easier for me, but I'm still hung up on accessibility in the road. So,
You say you have to get the 30 foot for the right of way from his side of the property, and he still won't have enough.
well, the road is only 30 foot of right of way total from Hickory down. He's able to donate right of way and make the improvement along his property to get to his entrance, his road. But from that point north to town, there's nothing there for him. So that's my concern. And then it's kind of that trickle down effect. You look at the zoning map right here. You got further property to the south that could potentially come and ask for the same thing, and we're going to be compounding an issue of basically a narrow little road that's a agricultural little road, serve large lots, low density, and we're going to compound the deterioration of that road and the issues with people coming and going. I mean, I've driven on it a handful of times.
Me too.
And yeah, you do have to get over. You meet somebody, that's the character and nature of it. But as we grow, we're gonna have to start thinking about these things. again, what's difficult is again, for me personally and professionally, I think R15, and I think the conditions proposed by staff are reasonable. The only thing I'm concerned with, again, is how are you gonna get the people to and from? So, that's my concerns. And if there's no other discussion, the chair will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve based on the recommendations of the city. And I feel like the city will have to work out the road conditions with the developer, if that's the way they choose to go.
Okay. We have a motion.
I second that.
All right, we have a motion to approve the rezoning request with the staff conditions, is that correct?
Yes.
And there's a second. Any other discussion?
Was that the 15 houses?
Yes, ma'am.
Instead of the 24?
Yes, ma'am, with the staff conditions. Okay. With no other discussion, all those in favor signify by raising your hand. All right, all those opposed signify by raising your hand. Thank you. Motion passes. All right. The next item is special use permit 2025-08. Cody, if you'll get that ready for us.
All right, this is the request for special use to allow for proposed data center development under light industrial zoning at 5023, 5073, and 0 East Hightower Trail, also known as tax parcels SC 2311, 12, and 13. Again, the special use request is to allow for a proposed data center campus under light industrial zoning across the 3 tracts of previously mentioned land totaling approximately 96 acres. Under Section 2.3.1 of the UDC, data centers are permitted outright under heavy industrial zoning. However, under light industrial zoning, data centers require special use approval. The 3 properties were recently rezoned to light industrial a few years ago. Given the zoning of the surrounding properties in this area, along with the proposal submitted, light industrial is the least intensive zoning that would accomplish the proposed plan. This property is currently adjacent to the General Mills property. As shown on the proposed site plan, the proposed data center development would be constructed across the 3 parcels totaling 96 acres and would consist of 4 buildings, each totaling 250,000 square feet. While there is currently a Georgia Power substation adjacent to the proposed development, Exhibit A also shows a 100,000 square foot substation that would be developed as part of the proposed project as well. Under Section 2.1.5 of the UDC, the maximum pervious surface ratio allowed is 40%. However, based on Exhibit A, the concurrent projected ISR is plus or minus 26%. Therefore, based on the proposed site plan, it would meet this condition. The proposed project also appears to meet the site standards for industrial uses as outlined in Section 3.4 of the UDC. However, if approved, all site development requirements will be reviewed during the development review phase of the project prior to any construction beginning. While a formal traffic study was not required as part of the application, nor was there a threshold triggered to require a DRI, the applicant provided an estimated traffic analysis in their letter of intent, Exhibit B. The analysis indicates that while light industrial uses typically experience a traffic increase of between 2 and 10 trucks per 1,000 square foot of building space, the proposed data center is estimated to be less than half the lower end of that spectrum. Exhibit B also provides insight into operations and estimated utility usage as well. The applicant has indicated that while proposed data centers would operate 24/7, there would be no excess noise or odors emitted from the site, and due to the nature of the operations, there would be significantly less commercial vehicle traffic generated as compared to other light industrial uses. The anticipated build-out of the project would be over a 4 to 5 year period, with the first building being operational within 2 to 3 years. As it pertains to estimated utility usage, the letter of intent indicates that anticipated peak water usage during warmer months would be approximately 1 million gallons per day, with the peak sewer usage being approximately 400,000 gallons per day. However, the applicant has indicated that as technology progresses, they are committed to implementing more water-efficient systems to minimize resource demands. Furthermore, the applicant has indicated that they are aware that special use approval does not guarantee the applicant nor end user of any utility service rights, and they are committed to working with the city and other applicable utility providers while being sensitive to the community's concerns regarding availability resources in the area. There is currently a 12-inch water main along East Hightower Trail, located on the same side of the road as the proposed development. However, concerning sewer, the city may need to obtain an easement from the developer as future plans are to remove the current pump station in that area and install gravity sewer to flow to that area from the regional pump station located by P&K Logistics. City Police has requested that public safety and the developers have a conversation with regard to site security and traffic control in that area prior to any construction beginning, should the special use approval be granted. A community meeting was held virtually on October 7th. However, aside from the applicant, there were no other attendees. The subject property appears to be adequate shape and size to accommodate the special use. There appears to be adequate school, public safety, emergency facilities, and stormwater drainage available for the proposed future use. However, gas services are provided by the Stanton Springs Municipal Natural Gas, and while there is a 12-inch water main in the area, ability to meet capacity needs would be addressed closer to the time of development beginning. As mentioned earlier, regarding sewer, the city may need to obtain an easement due to its future plans. The specific use standards for data centers are covered under Section 3.4.61A of the UDC, and this proposed development and concept appears to fall within the parameters outlined in that section. The property is not within the local or national historic districts and is also located outside of the watershed protection overlay district as well. The comp plan does not directly address data centers. However, it does identify this area as one that is best suited for industrial use and growth within the city limits. The proposed development also appears to align with the Northeast Georgia Regional Commission's regional plan as well. Staff recommends approval of the request for special use to allow for a data center development at the aforementioned parcels with the following conditions. Condition 1, maximum parking spaces shall be calculated at 1 parking space per 7,000 square feet of building space. Condition 2, in addition to the 200-foot natural buffer shown on the proposed site plan along East Hightower Trail, the buffer must consist of trees that are a minimum of 4 caliper inches and or at least 10 feet in height at the time of planting. Condition 3, power substations shall be screened from view only if visible from the right-of-way with a dense evergreen hedge that provides an opaque visual buffer. Said hedge shall be no less than 12 feet in height at the time of planting. And condition 4, applicant must obtain a letter from the city's engineers to confirm that city utilities have capacity for the project prior to beginning any development.
Cody, before I open up the public hearing, I couldn't find it this afternoon. Do special use permits expire?
They do not, no.
Okay. Okay, and I would like to, we do have somebody that would like the minutes, comments read into minutes, but we'll do that after when the public hearing begins for those who would like to speak for or against. At this time, Ms. Gray, I think you have the pleasure of being the applicant on this one as well. Come on up.
All right, well, good evening once again. For this round, I have the pleasure of representing Dermody, and I am joined this evening in our presentation with Rich Modulewski. Maybe I got that right. He is the Senior Vice President for Data Center Development for Dermody. So we're going to do a joint presentation this evening for you.
You only get 10 minutes, right?
Yes.
You're not asking for 10 minutes each.
No,
Okay.
no, absolutely
kidding.
not, no. We'll trade off, it'll be fine. So Dermody is a development company that's well established. It's been around for over 60 years with a great track record of doing some of the country's largest industrial facilities and development, over 300 developments over a national, international, and regional client base. Here tonight, I've got Rich with me. We've also got Wes and David in the audience here if we need any backup. And again, I'm the attorney representing Dermody this evening. As Cody mentioned, the property is located on East Hightower Trail. We're directly adjacent to General Mills, the new warehouse that's going up, and reasonably close to the DART plant as well. Here's the zoning map. Again, we are asking to rezone 3 parcels. Those parcels total 95.12 acres. They're already zoned light industrial, so forgive me, we're not asking for a rezoning, we're just asking for the special use permit. So those are already consistent with the like zonings of General Mills, the warehouse, and of DART, all of which are the light industrial. So, there we go. This is the watershed protection map. I always like when I'm in social circle to check to make sure that we're not in the protection area. And this site is just outside of that area, so those additional requirements do not apply, and there's lesser impact to this area. Future land use map, as Cody mentioned, again, we are in the industrial character area along with our adjoining neighbors, so we're very fitting use for this area of your city. And finally, before I head it off to Rich, just wanted to show what plan has already been approved for this particular site. The site was rezoned as light industrial based on this plan for a 1.2 million square foot distribution facility. You likely remember this from maybe a year or so ago, but with this it was approved for 612 auto parking spaces, 554 tractor trailer spaces, and a very minimal buffer around the road. So I will let Rich take over and tell you about the project that we're proposing.
Thanks, Andrea. Rich Modulewski. So just to complement Andrea's first points, this is the approved site plan as
Mr.
of today.
Modulewski, if you'll point your comments to the board, please. Thank
Yep,
you.
Apologies. This
That's
is
okay.
the approved site plan as of today. The conceptual site plan that we're putting forth is, we tried to keep in character with the development that was already approved. I think we've made some modifications that benefit the community, but as you'll notice, we tried to keep the building envelope within the same footprint, or approximately the same footprint as the proposed warehouse that was approved. But what we have done is added 200-foot buffers to the development on both the west and east sides of the property. You will note that the on-site substation and detention is consistent with the former plan. And what we will be doing is there will be a secure fence that's built around the perimeter, most likely behind the vegetation and screening that the planning committee, or excuse me, the planning board has requested. Two entrances off at East Hightower Trail. One is the main entrance and one is more of an emergency service entrance off the back. From a project operations perspective, we did run an analysis comparing approximately 1 million square foot warehouse to 1 million square foot data center operation. What the analysis suggests is that we will reduce the amount of automobile traffic, so not trucks, but automobile traffic, by 621 trips per day, which doesn't account for, as Andrea mentioned in the previous two slides, the 554 tractors that were planned to be potentially stored on site. So we're significantly reducing the traffic to the area. Because of the reduction in parking and the reduction in the amount of people that will be at the site, we think we'll also be reducing the impact on the schools and life safety systems here in the city. And we added, as we've seen in other data center developments, that we will absolutely comply with the UDC lighting requirements to ensure that we're being as minimally disruptive as possible. From a utility perspective, Andrea, it was touched on earlier, this is an approximate. This will be finalized, obviously, between the city engineers, the county, and the ultimate end user. But at the end of the day, there are ways, and we're still working on this, that you can mitigate some of this through storage and building new water towers and what have you. So we're trying to be as sensitive as we can to the infrastructure needs for this project. It will be served by Georgia Power. It is worth noting that the substation that Georgia Power is currently planning to build on East Hightower Trail has nothing to do with this project. That was something that was planned for commercial and residential growth within the area. It's a matter of happenstance. And as mentioned, Stanton Springs Municipal would be the gas. From a gas need, it would simply be normal heating that you would see in any sort of manufacturing or industrial use similar in the area. From a highlight perspective, this project will create a significant amount of new well-paying jobs within the data center industry, sort of as a generic statement. The types of jobs, the permanent jobs that come with these facilities are generally 6 figures. Significant new capital investment. We expect a project this size to potentially be upwards of $1 billion on the low end when fully stabilized. which will increase tax revenues and fees, and hopefully at some point reduce the burden on residential taxpayers. In addition, enhance resources for schools, infrastructure, and public safety services. And we feel that's a less intensive use for the property than is currently planned today by, again, reducing the overall automobile traffic and truck traffic on East Hightower. As mentioned, do you want me to just finish? Sure. We held the community meeting on October 7th at 6 p.m. and no members attended except for us. As far as comments on staff recommendations, I think we're okay with everything. We respectfully request to increase the amount of parking to 250 spaces. This is 362 less than what was approved for automobile parking at the current site under the current plan, and does not account for any of the tractor trailer storage that will no longer be needed. But in terms of buffer and screening, and to the extent visible, screening the substation and ensuring that the adequate utility capacity is available from the city engineers or county, et cetera, we're perfectly fine with that. And I will relinquish the rest of the time for rebuttal.
Okay. Any questions of the applicant at this time?
I have two.
Okay.
You were talking about the Georgia Power substation. There's two on your drawing here.
Microphone.
You mentioned Georgia Power substation. I'm guessing the one on the top right is the one you're referring to they're gonna build or already had plans on building. What's the other one? Is that for your facility?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's all I got right now.
Okay. I know I'll have some questions. At this time, we'll go ahead and open up the public hearing for those that would like to speak in favor of, and looks like David Sprinkle. Maybe you're one of the Dermody partners, if you want to.
Yes, sir, but nothing further to add.
Okay.
Just here to answer questions.
Wes Hardy, same.
Nothing
Okay.
bad. Thank you.
And Mitch, you signed up, but okay. All right. So that concludes those who'd like to speak in favor. We do have a few that'd like to speak in opposition. Call them in order. John Miller.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Miller had to leave early and he'll ask me to make a few comments on his behalf. Is that possible?
Well, Mr. Hawkins, you're the next man up. So you're welcome to come up.
Thank you. I've got a couple of comments that I had made earlier, and I addressed these with the council. So I'm going to first of all touch on Mr. Miller's concerns. Mr. Miller lives at 20 Lakewood Avenue here in Social Circle, and he also owns Liberty Staples at 1494 Knox Chapel Road. My name is Doug Hawkins, and I live at 920 Lakewood Drive here in Social Circle. Mr. Miller's concerns, as he listed there, is one of the things I'll talk about briefly later, is the water supply, and he has a horse and training area there, so he has a concern about the low frequency travels, low frequency sounds travel much further, and he says that he has a right to the quiet enjoyment of his property, and I agree with him there. I don't think that any of the data centers have addressed significantly the sound level that comes from those units. I'm sure that there's some buffers that are possible that we might be able to address that. And then going further, I'll revert back to my comments if you don't mind, so I'll reiterate some of the things that I had said earlier. UDC is, we've had some amendments here on a UDC, but I think more importantly, we are faced right now at the DCA level that they are stopping their reviews of the DRIs for the purpose of putting these data centers into a classification, and that's up, I think, for the final decisions. That's going to be in November, but that's, it's 30 days away. At the same time, they've been assigned the task of addressing the service delivery strategy, which I think is also significant for this as far as any annexations. One of the things that I'm continuously concerned about is the fact that we are blindly pursuing these data centers, and we're not really aware of the impact that it could have. We don't have a big water supply here. We're limited to what we can withdraw from the Alcova. I think a permit is like 1 million gallons. And the gentleman a few minutes ago mentioned that they needed 1 million gallons a day. We start to then, I think, infringe on our local industries that we have here, that we're forgetting how much we've committed to them already and what they need. Our obligation should be to look at this very carefully and make decisions on what do we really have the capacity for. I talked to Walton County Water Sewer Authority today, and the new plant might be coming online, I don't know, end of next year. Maybe they're looking at 16 million gallons a day, but that's no assurance that we're going to get it. But I think we need to drop back and pause on this, take the lead from DCA, and look at what the guidelines are, the new guidelines are going to be, and make informative decisions. We can't just grab every data center that comes up. We don't have their water capacity. We have no assurance from them exactly what it will be, on what they will need. They've gone from 1 million to 3 million. We have no assurance of what the sound level is going to be, so we haven't addressed that. So I think there are a lot of unanswered questions that we as a city just don't have the answers. And the developers don't have the answers. If they do, they don't give them to us. So I would ask you to carefully consider postponing some of these decisions until we get the guidelines from DCA. Let's make an informed decision. Thank you.
Thank you. What is that?
Which one? Little thing.
This one.
Yeah. Next person signed up, the last name is Catherine, maybe? Yes, ma'am.
I'm Catherine Cohenauer at 501 Lakewood, and just ditto all of that stuff, because he touched on all of the things I wanted to touch on.
Okay, thank you. And then Eric Hutchison?
I'm Eric Hutchison, 476 Thurman Bacchus Road, so right behind the development there. I have an email that is going to be read in the minutes as well, so I'll just touch on a couple of things. The whole watershed thing, I think that needs to be reevaluated. Those waters there, the wetlands you see there, same thing, same issue with P&K there. Those feed into Little River, which feed into state waters. And prior to feeding into that, it feeds into my pond, which was completely filled in when P&K cleared their land and all the mud and everything washed down into our pond. That's in the email too, but I don't think that warehouse should have been ever approved in the first place. Shortly afterwards, we put a moratorium on further warehouses. I think Social Circle has learned that these things are bad for unmitigated growth in our town. And then echoing what was said earlier as well, you know, we're small town, rural feel, the character area stuff that came before most of our times. You know, this is, we're destroying our green spaces. We're making ourselves look like the city's closer to Atlanta. When I fly overhead, I work for an airline. When I fly overhead, all I know Social Circle is these giant, white, ugly facilities that keep popping up, you know. And then, you know, Longleaf came along for P&K, made all these promises to the city, then they immediately sold the plans and somebody else came in, and it's been a battle for years with them. You know, what's saying that's, you know, that something like that's not going to happen too. But, you know, I think a data center may or may not be the worst thing for our town necessarily, but I think that spot as well is just not conducive to the kind of developments that are trying to go in there, infecting our like I said, the headwaters for the state waters, which go down into drinking waters, which affects all of us. So, and then if you don't mind reading the email, I appreciate that as well.
Thank you, sir. All right. At this time, we don't have anyone else that's like to speak for or against. If before the applicant comes up for any rebuttal, Cody, if you'll read that, please.
All right, again, this is an email provided by Mr. Hutchinson to be read into the minutes. As a longtime resident of Social Circle, living on Thurman Bacchus Road and the city limits on the south side of town, I'm, again, reading it from his perspective. I live here with my wife and our 7 children, now ranging in age from 6 to 17. Like many in our community, we chose Social Circle for its rural charm, small town atmosphere, and natural beauty. We have raised our family here and plan to retire in this peaceful setting. However, I'm writing today to express my strong opposition to the proposed data center development on East Hightower Trail, which threatens to further disrupt our local environment, particularly the sensitive wetlands in the area, and undermine the quality of life we all value. 3 years ago, I addressed this commission regarding the P&K warehouse development, then known as Social Circle Logistics Center, on a neighboring parcel to my property. In that letter and during the public meeting, I outlined serious concerns about environmental impacts, including the displacement of streams, sediment runoff into the Little River, and potential pollution affecting downstream ecosystems in my family's pond. I predicted that the massive earth moving required for such a project would send thousands of yards of sediment downstream, filling in wetlands, ponds, and state waters. Unfortunately, every one of those predictions has come true. The P&K development has been a nightmare for my family and our property. During construction, enormous amounts of sediment were displaced, much of which washed directly into our pond, rendering it unusable for swimming, fishing, and as a water source. We have spent the last 2 years in an ongoing battle with P&K to restore the pond to its original state, a fight that continues to this day, draining our time, resources, and peace of mind. Worse still, this displaced sediment made its way into state waters via the Little River, potentially harming broader ecosystems and water quality for surrounding communities. History is repeating itself, and now we face yet another large-scale industrial project that would exacerbate these issues. The proposed data center on the East Hightower Trail poses even greater risk, building on the same pattern of wetland disruption while introducing new negatives unique to data centers. These facilities are notorious for their immense resource demands and environmental toll. For instance, data centers consume vast amounts of water, often millions of gallons per day, for cooling systems, which can strain local water supplies and overwhelm wastewater treatment facilities. In a region like ours, already facing pressures on water resources, this could lead to shortages or increased costs for residents. Additionally, their high energy consumption places enormous strain on the power grid, potentially leading to higher utility bills, blackouts, or the need for new infrastructure that further disrupts the landscape. Beyond resources, data centers generate significant noise pollution from constant humming of cooling fans, backup generators, and equipment, which can be audible for miles, especially at night, adding to the existing disturbances from nearby warehouses like DART and General Mills and whoever P&K rents their warehouse to. Light pollution from 24/7 operations would further erode our dark skies, impacting wildlife and our enjoyment of the rural night. Construction alone would involve massive land clearing and grading, displacing sediments and disrupting the same stream channels and wetlands that feed into our pond and the Little River. Given the P&K experience, it's clear this could result in more runoff, pollution, and irreversible damage to local ecosystems, including our property's pond and well. These developments are systematically destroying the wetlands that make Social Circle special, turning green spaces into concrete monoliths that prioritize corporate profits over community well-being. Data centers, like the oversized warehouses before them, do not align with the small town feel that residents and even our city leaders have repeatedly expressed a desire to preserve. As I noted 3 years ago in my comments about the P&K project, our comprehensive plan already designates far too much land for industrial use, risking unmitigated growth that erodes our rural character. We must learn from the P&K debacle and reject projects that threaten our environment and quality of life. I urge the Planning Commission to recommend against the data center proposal and advocate for stronger safeguards such as mandatory zero-impact environmental protections, wetland preservation requirements, and limit on industrial-scale developments. Let's protect our green spaces, waterways, and community before it's too late. Social Circle deserves thoughtful growth that enhances rather than diminishes our way of life. Thank you for your time and consideration. I am available to discuss this further and remain committed to preserving the best of our town. Sincerely, Eric Hutchinson.
Thank you, Cody, for reading that in. Ms. Gray, I think you have some time for rebuttal.
You wanna do cleanup or you want me to do cleanup?
I could start, and I honestly wouldn't like this to even be thought of as rebuttal, but I think points of clarification or maybe further education on data centers. I think one point of clarification on water use. These facilities, with their current technologies, they only actually draw water in the hottest summer months. In the fall, winter, and early spring, when the temperatures are cooler, they actually don't draw any water other than your domestic sinks, toilets, like normal use for an industrial facility. I can appreciate the concerns around habitat, but also wanted to just re-note and clarify for the Planning Commission that the project has an active approved site plan and land disturbance permit for a 1.2 million square foot industrial warehouse. So it's not necessarily fair to attribute these things to a potential data center development when the project's already slated for development on that specific parcel. So it would be sort of any development. There isn't something unique about the construction of a data center that makes it materially different than a warehouse or a school or a hospital. And then I think the last was around sound. As you noticed in the presentation, we have 200-foot setbacks on both the western and eastern boundary. And in addition to that, plan on adhering to the conditions of adding extra buffer and screening with mature trees, and have no intention of touching the landscape or the trees that are in the back of the property that are also within protected wetland areas to begin with. So from a site work perspective, we'll be adding more greenery than is present at the site today, and there's minimal trees throughout the inside of the property. So I'm happy to answer any other questions or.
Sure. Yeah, and I'll just add, you notice on the site plan that we're not impacting any of the streams or wetlands that are on the site. We've made a real effort to avoid all of those. And again, we are outside that watershed protection area. And I'll just say, as somebody that works in this business, a data center is a far better neighbor than an industrial warehouse with tractor trailer traffic coming and going consistently. And I understand the concerns that we hear tonight, and the folks that have been here a long time, change is challenging, but the change has already occurred here. The zoning already occurred here. There's already a project in place here. We're just asking for a special use permit to put a lesser intense, really, use on the property. So with that, nothing else to add.
Okay. I do have some questions and ask that you guys hang around. Cody, can you verify, has a land disturbance permit or has a site plan been approved by the city for this property?
There hasn't been a civil site plan submitted or approval given, no.
Okay. So just for note, the site plan we saw in the presentation is just a concept of what was submitted during the rezoning, I believe. Is that correct?
Yes, I think it was just as part of the rezoning. There has been some clearing of the land, but there's been no official approval given.
Okay. And another thing to note is that is the city actively pursuing data center developments?
I'm not aware of the city pursuing anything like that. No.
All right, I've heard that, and I just want to put that on record. So, several questions I have of the applicant, and this is very consistent with other applicants that have come before us with the same request. Do you guys have an end user agreement with one of the big hyperscalers?
We do have a party interested in potentially buying the site, but I can't disclose who specifically that is at this time.
Okay. That doesn't really bode well if you're not willing or able to disclose, because it's our community, we live here, we should know our neighbors. Do you have a power commitment from Georgia Power?
That's in the process of being finalized.
Okay. Do you have a water commitment from either Social Circle Water or you know, whoever. Maybe I understand there's been some discussion with other water utility providers to allow access into our service area, but do you have a water commitment?
That's also being finalized.
Okay.
There's optionality around how it potentially gets serviced, but I know that it's being worked on.
Okay. I mean, those to me are pretty big details when you're talking about the land use. I completely agree that, Ms. Gray, when you said that this is a far lesser intense than a potential distribution warehouse in terms of impact on neighbors and roadways. So just trying to wrap my head around making sure that we can provide a thorough recommendation to the mayor and council.
I do have another comment on the water, power, and those types of agreements. I just want to say that, you know, we understand that this board is not the board that negotiates those, right? This board is a land use decision-making board, and those other decisions come from other departments or the city council and those kind of things. So I guess I know you get asked those questions and you feel a lot of pressure there, but just know we understand, you know, we understand the limits of what you can require. And I think Cody's condition on this one gets to that point that any, you know, construction on the site obviously is contingent on working out these agreements.
Yeah,
water
that's
and
construction,
sewer
but
and power.
as you asked me, or heard me ask earlier, do special use permits expire? What I want to avoid is a situation where we go down a path of potentially granting a special use permit, only get to the point where, oh, the power consumption or the power commitment's not there for 5 years or 10 years, or the water ability for cooling is not there for 5 years, because Social Circle doesn't have the infrastructure for the water at a million gallons a day for one center. Social Circle has approved other centers, and we do have active industrial users that use water that are current customers. So that is some of the information that goes into a solid recommendation from this body. And that's why I was asking those things. I completely understand about non-disclosures and about contracts. However, it's also good to know who our neighbor is going to be. I see in your presentation you said that the applicant's asking for 250 parking spaces. Can you explain why you're asking for that many parking spaces?
It's just to accommodate employees.
Okay. And with data center employees, once up and running, each facility building is about 35 on the high end employees. Would you be acceptable, and the staff recommendation was 1 per 7,000 square foot. You're proposing 1 million square foot of building. Would you be willing to entertain 1 per 10,000 square foot of building space? Would give you 100 max of parking spaces. That reduces that impervious area, which also would help reduce the size of any potential detention ponds and any potential negative impact from runoff. That's just something that we're looking at, that I'm looking at personally. I see the site is fenced and well fenced, and that's for security. This is our community. What's your built environment going to look like? What type of fencing are you proposing? Are you talking just chain link fence with windscreen, or are we talking something aesthetically pleasing that's also both secure, like a 6 to 8 foot high luminized picket fence? You know, talk to me about the aesthetics of what your project's going to look like at the end. You know, has your company developed data centers in the past that we can see and point to and say, okay, that's what we like for our community, or this is what we want to change? Things like that. That's something that would be helpful, I know, for me in making a decision that might benefit you. If anybody else has any questions, okay.
Reading through, what is this part? I don't know what section it is. Anyway, it says that build out be over 4 to 5 year period, with the first building being operational in 2 to 3 years. So I would presume on the short end.
John, Use the mic.
On the short end of that would be 2 years. Based on this preliminary site plan, you're gonna have to get started pretty soon. So I would assume you have some idea, or I would have some idea of the water capacity of one of these buildings, or all four. But you said y'all don't have that design yet. Is it a closed loop system?
Currently as designed or contemplated, that like final decision hasn't been made. The industry standard, generally speaking, in the southeast, can go either way. It can be open loop or closed loop.
How soon do you think y'all are gonna start?
Construction, I think ultimately, our potential client would like to get going as soon as possible, within reason, and working with the different parts and pieces of the county and the city to ensure that, to your point, the landscaping plans are aesthetically pleasing, that the fencing is aesthetically pleasing, that everyone is comfortable with what the development is going to look like, and finishing water sewer agreements and power agreements and all those things. But I would say that on average, these facilities can take 18 months, 16 to 18 months to get operational. Like
Depending
the
on what
building
kind of
one.
equipment you buy.
No, it's more just a matter of normal construction. I don't think it necessarily has anything to do with the equipment.
That's all I got. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Would it be possible for, you want to give this, throw this out there for you to consider. Would it be possible to gather this information that we've requested, like the power commitment, the water commitment, a more finite design of your cooling system? Is that stuff you can get together within 2 weeks? I think if it's tabled, Cody, remind me, we've got to take action within 2 weeks of action.
You have to take it within 15 days of tabling the recommendation.
So essentially 2 weeks. Is that possible?
I think it would be near impossible with the coordination and the amount of thoughtfulness and engineering that goes into designing water sewer systems and these power systems to have that done in 2 weeks. Our expectation is that would be done at some point early next year.
Okay. Here's my dilemma. I do agree that the use, it would potentially be less intensive than what it could be under the light industrial zoning, and there's a number of uses that could go in light industrial by right. However, in my mind, there's a lot of uncertainties, as I stated, around the water consumption, the power consumption, the end user. I'm looking at the site plan, and it is a concept, understanding fully that it could change based upon findings, doing geotech, number of things. So I'm not asking for full set of plans, because that's asking a lot for you to go invest in a set of plans based upon a recommendation. But having some of those assurances for availability and what we're looking at, it would be much better, in my opinion. The good news is with, what a lot of times people don't consider with the data center is getting power there. Power comes from a number of sources, either underground or overhead, mostly overhead. The good news is you've got transmission lines across your frontage and within the right-of-way, so you're not adding new transmission lines across someone's front yard or backyard or whatnot. So that's one less hurdle to cross. But having that understanding and that commitment from a water supplier and a commitment from power, and again, that end user agreement, that goes a long way in my thoughts.
Well, and I will say, I think we've got a bit of a chicken and egg problem, right? On the one hand, you would like the water sewer power information to issue a land use designation, and we would like a land use designation to be able to then go and get those details on the power, water, and the sewer. Ultimately, at the end of the day, you know, the risk is borne by the property owner and the applicant as to whether or not they can secure those things, right? If you were to give us the land designation that we're looking for based on it being consistent with the plan and, you know, a less intense use than other potential L1 uses, then it's, you know, on these guys to make that come to fruition by then getting those commitments. So again, I understand your position, I respect it, but again, chicken and egg, you know, we're kind of in a challenging situation there, but ultimately, you know, bearing the risk on this side.
Sure, and others have come before this board that had those commitments. So it's I don't think it's something that we ask that's unheard of, but that's just my thought. I'll yield the floor to any other commission members that would like to speak. If there's no questions of the applicant, you're welcome to have a seat and
Thank you.
deliberate amongst ourselves. Ms. Brown, what do you think?
You have to have that commitment letter for the power and the water, cause how this, I'm sorry. We really need that, commitment letter from the power company and the water, because we can't just guess it about how much you're gonna use. I mean, we know what other might need, but this is another station.
Yeah. Any questions, concerns? Okay. How about you, John?
I'd like to have the commitment letter, but I understand it's.
Microphone. We're just gonna leave it on for you.
Yeah, I'll just leave it on. I understand that there are issues with getting that information. You know, to have it for this forum.
Adolphus, what are your thoughts?
As far as the letter, what can it be tabled? Can you table it to see how much information you can get and make a recommendation?
That's what this body did with an application that came before it in August. We tabled it. The applicant did provide the information requested, came back, and that allowed us to make a recommendation. You know, one of the things that's why I've asked, you know, if we've got to take action on it, if we table it, we've got to take action on it within 15 days. So it'd be a called meeting within 15 days. And that's why I asked the applicant, Ms. Gray, could they gather that information within 15 days? To give them that opportunity to come back with that information, and that's the information that we've asked every applicant that's come before us for a similar use, to better understand the impacts. And yeah, at some point, we have to understand what the city has agreed to, so that we don't just continue making recommendations for projects that we can't supply. Understanding that, you know, we've all been in social circle for a while. We know the challenges that the water system faces. So at this location, it may not be served by City of Social Circle water, but we need to have in my opinion, I think it's a good idea to find out who it's going to be serviced by and what their commitment may be. If it's Walton County Water and Sewer Authority, are they going to be able to provide their infrastructure and their water to the location within 18 months? And at how many gallons per day? As the applicant stated, yeah, he's absolutely right. Data centers are large water users for cooling methods during the hottest part of the summers. And the hottest part of the summers, you know, when water gets tight, government's going to ask the homeowners to cut back on water supply. They're not going to ask data centers, because we're all going to be at home on our phones without water, right? So it's one of those, having that information, I think, allows us to make a better decision. You know, if we had an understanding that, yep, with this project and others that are like it, there's 10 million gallons a day of water availability, and Georgia Power can meet their power consumption at, let's just say, 400 megawatts of power, then they're committed to it. That's going to limit what they can provide there. I know for me, it gives me a little more comfort in understanding the impacts that are going to have. Because if Georgia Power say that they can only provide 200 megawatts, that may not be 4 buildings, that may be 2 buildings. So that lessens your overall impact. So that's some of the things that I think about. With no other discussion, I'm open for a motion.
I mean, we just a recommending body anyway, and we don't have the information on hand, and it would be crazy to approve without all the information anyway. I make a motion to deny it.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor to deny the request. Is there a second? Okay, we have a motion and a second. No other discussion on the item? All those, the chair will call for a vote. All those in favor of the motion to deny, signify by raising your hand. All right, all those opposed? Okay. Motion passes with a vote of 4-1. All right. Cody, do you want to introduce the next one? Is it Annexation 2025-06?
All right, this is the request for annexation of tax parcels 0122007A, 007B, 001, 001A, as well as plus or minus 684 acres of tax parcel 0111005 into the City of Social Circle as part of a proposed data center development under light industrial zoning. This application is being made under the provisions of the Official Code of Georgia, Section 363620, and is made by ordinance to be included in the corporate limits of said municipality and made a part thereof. All right. I'm only going to, for the sake of time and redundancy, I'm only going to speak on the annexation and the staff analysis for this portion. Georgia Strouds Creek Land LLC is requesting to annex the aforementioned parcels into the City of Social Circle as part of a proposal for a potential data center campus. Please note that a portion of tax parcel 0111005 is already located within the city limits. As part of the proposal, if approved, the applicant would also be seeking a future land use map amendment, rezone, and special use approval as well. These parcels are currently located in the unincorporated portion of Newton County along Hollis Road, Highway 11, Wildwood Drive, Lakewood Drive, and Strouds Creek Road, and are directly adjacent to property currently within the city limits. The requested annexation as proposed appears that it would address a specific need by promoting job growth in the area and increasing the tax base. It does not appear that the proposed annexation would adversely affect the existing use nor usability of adjacent or nearby properties either. The properties do not fall with any special overlay districts. However, there are state water buffer requirements that developments of any kind would be required to adhere to. The requested annexation appears that it would conform with the comprehensive plan as it pertains to the future land use map as proposed by the applicant. Staff recommends approval of the request to annex the aforementioned parcels into the City of Social Circle.
Are there any questions of Cody about the request for annexation? Not, we'll open up the public hearing and ask Ms. Julie Seacrest, you're the applicant for this?
Good evening, Mr. Chair. Julie Sellers, 1776 Peachtree Street, Atlanta. Pleasure to be here before you tonight. I do recognize you all have had a lengthy agenda, and we have 4 applications before you. If I understand we'll have to have a public hearing on each portion, I thought it would be helpful just to kind of have the context. So if you'll indulge me, I'd like to go ahead and give an overview of the proposed development, because I think that that helps make everything make sense, hopefully.
Okay.
Want to just start by setting the stage. We do have multiple applications, and I think it was important when we started looking at this property to really kind of look at the current status, and I'm going to show you a few other pieces of detail, but this is a portion in Newton County that is designated for industrial. So what we are asking for is consistent with the county's character area, classifying this as industrial property. In addition to that, and I'm confident some of you are probably even better versed in this than I am, but this is a very large site. So when we talk about buffering and having room to really mitigate against impacts to any neighbors, we're talking about 980 acres. That's huge. In fact, it's such a large site that this was designated by the county and by the state, and I believe recognized by the city, under this name of the Georgia Historic Heartland Mega Site. So this has gone through approvals several years ago, looking at this as a prime industrial development site, and it has been promoted as such by various local government entities. And so what we are seeking is consistent with planning exercises as well as certifications that have taken place over the last several years. So now getting into the applications that we have submitted, we do have an application for some parcels to come into the city from Newton County. The second scope of these applications is a zoning to light industrial and a corresponding future land use of industrial. And then our third and final is a special use permit for the data center use. So those are the different public hearings that we will hear. I want to go ahead and touch on the specifics. We have an assemblage of multiple different properties here before you. And what I think is important to recognize is, in some ways, this annexation will really kind of clean up some confusing aspects. So we have a very large portion of the property that you see on the map as number 1. That is the property that's already located in the city of Social Circle. What you see on the map to the right with that red outline, that shows you the annexations. So these are parcels that are currently located in unincorporated Newton County, and we are asking to bring those into the city. When you see parcel 2, that is a large site that actually has a portion of that dirt in the city and a large portion in the county. So it's a bit of a mess as far as those, kind of jurisdictional lines. And so this really would allow for a cohesive and coherent extension of the city's boundaries. I did want to point out there are some, I'm going to call them the triangular parcels. Those are the parcels that would be closest to the residential neighbors. Those are not included in this application. So those parcels are not, they're located in the city, they're currently zoned in the city. Those would not be impacted by this application. Go ahead and talk a little bit about development details. And I think that what struck me, and I look at site plans all day, every day, and I still have a hard time sometimes understanding. So the purple line on here is really showing that's the property line. And you can see Highway 11 down to the bottom of the page. But the property line actually also kind of runs along the railroad line, if you will. So what you can see is this is not a development that will be smack dab up against Highway 11. Similarly, you can see on the top of the screen, Strouds Creek Road up there, you can see again, the development is not right up on the road. We're on the other side of the power lines. So, it's really a development. Again, we've got 980 acres. This is a prime industrial site, which has been recognized by the state and by the county, and with significant buffering available. So as far as any potential impacts, they are really minimized due to the size of this property. We're talking about 12 one-story buildings, again, that are set back significantly. This, again, is the Heartland Mega Site, which has been certified, and I know I keep repeating that, but it is something that has been an asset in the county in close proximity to the city as this recognized industrial site. The data center use, when we're talking about impact, traffic is usually one of the biggest things that you hear. We heard it on the residential application that you heard before you. With the data center, there is a low traffic impact, zero impact to schools, and a significant financial benefit to the city. We are here tonight requesting your recommendation of approval on all of our requests. And with this being the starting one for the annexation, I am happy to answer any questions that you may have. And certainly if there's any questions specifically about the parcels or about the annexation or anything, happy to address the questions. But that is my presentation and overview of all of the requests before you.
Thank you, Ms. Sellers. Any questions of Ms. Sellers on the annexation request? All right. Thank you. So there was no one who was signed up to speak in favor of the annexation request. So we don't have anybody to speak in opposition of the annexation request. Okay. So before we take a,
sorry, I was prepared to speak for a rebuttal on with the applicant. Julie represents her. Can I say a couple of things that I think you need to be aware of in respect to some of the utilities and some things that were brought up in the last application? I had assumed we were going to get back up.
Yes, sir, you're going to have an opportunity, but at this time, what we're going to do is we've got 4 items on this. The context of the property and the project is what's important. We're going to hold the public hearings for each one, and then we're going to vote on each item. So yes, sir, you'll have an opportunity.
Scott, you asked if you may have a question on the other one.
Yes, sir. Okay. Ms. Sellers, there is a question for the annexation.
The microphone's on this time.
Thank you.
You mentioned this being a Heartland mega site. If this has been a mega site certified in Newton County for X number of years, why the annexation?
A few reasons. I think one is when you look at the totality of the property, having all of the property in the city allows for the overall development. It's hard to see, but if you can see the 3 buildings, I'm just going to call it the top of the page, those would be buildings that are on parcel 1. And so that is property that's already in Social Circle.
You talking about the ones over by the power line?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay.
And then when you go down towards the railroad, those are properties that are in the county. And so to really be able to make this work, we needed it in one jurisdiction. I'll certainly talk a little bit more, and we will definitely talk about utilities. We've got letters from Georgia Power and from the Water and Sewer. But there are also financial benefits that the city can receive for data center uses, that those financial benefits are not available to properties that are located in unincorporated counties. So it certainly has the potential for a much more significant financial benefit to the community as a whole, to be located within a city jurisdiction as opposed to a county.
So as stated, there's no one to speak for or against. The planning commission will have a vote on each of these items at the close of the entire public hearing process. Yeah. So
Okay, sorry. So just to make sure, I was thinking we were going to do a public hearing and a vote on each one. So I do have more to say
Yeah.
about the other aspects of the applications.
Yeah, I think it's important for the totality of what we're thinking about and hearing proposed. We'll go through the public hearings
Okay.
and then we'll make our recommendation on each item.
Okay,
So,
thank you. I probably should have asked for clarification.
That's quite all right.
on that, but-
And someone had raised their hand, is that right?
I just, the sign-up sheets were not very clear about.
We've got you signed up.
Okay, so
But
I can
this is for the annexation. So,
okay.
yeah, this is for the annexation. No one signed up to speak for or against that annexation. So we'll move on to the other part. Like I said, we've got a few annexation, future land use, rezoning, and special use permits. So it's a lot of different applications dealing with the same subject and the same properties. So we're going to go through the public hearing processes, allow everyone who signed up to speak the opportunity to speak, and then the planning commission will render a recommendation for all of them. So Cody, do you want to talk about the rezoning or the future land use? Excuse me.
All right. Georgia Strouds Creek LLC is requesting an amendment to the City of Social Circle's future land use map to characterize tax parcels S110009, 0122001A, 0111005, 0122007A, 0122007B, and 0122001 as industrial character areas. This request is being made in conjunction with the previously mentioned annexation request for these parcels, along with an application to rezone the properties from agricultural to light industrial as well. With the request to annex properties into the city, a character area would need to be assigned to the properties if approved. Newton County has identified these properties or this area as an industrial/heavy commercial character area in their most recent comprehensive plan as of 2023. Under Newton County's comprehensive plan, this character area is defined as being best suited for industrial development and heavy commercial properties such as large machinery repair, materials processing, and other non-retail uses. Additionally, both Newton County as well as the Georgia Department of Economic Development have labeled this property as the Georgia Historic Heartland Megasite, and it has previously been advertised as such by various entities in attempts to attract a large-scale industrial development, as shown in the Exhibit B. The proposal appears to be in line with the city's comprehensive plan in terms of being characterized as an industrial character area, as well as Newton County's identifying of the property as an industrial megasite in both their comprehensive plan and future land use map. Staff recommends approval of the request to amend the city's future land use map to characterize the aforementioned parcels as industrial character areas.
Any questions of staff? Seeing none? Ms. Sellers? You getting your steps in tonight?
I need it. Good evening, Julie Sellers, 1776 Peachtree Street in Atlanta, Georgia. On the future land use map, that is again consistent with what the county's plans already reflect for the county portion of this property, and is certainly aligned with the various reports and certifications that have been made by different entities over the years. So we would ask for your support. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Any questions on the future land use from the applicant? Okay, thank you. We did not have anybody that signed up to speak for the future land use amendment, but we do have someone like to speak in opposition. I have Catherine.
Hello, Catherine Cohenauer, 501 Lakewood Drive. I'd like to I think I've signed up for each one of them, but in opposition, I have very strong concerns about traffic increase. Lakewood, as with Hickory and Wildwood, are very narrow roads. We're already stopping to make sure we can pass each other. I think increase in putting an exit for this data center directly to Lakewood is my understanding of what would be used for, just safety, road, use of water. We already have flooding. So, yeah, just to, don't want it.
All right, thank you, ma'am. We don't have anyone else to speak in favor or opposition to the future land use. Ms. Sellers, would you like to have any time for rebuttal for the future land use? Okay. Cody, would you walk us through the rezoning request, please, sir?
Georgia Strouds Creek Land LLC is requesting to rezone tax parcels S110009, 0122001A, 007A, 007B, 001, and 0111005 from agricultural to light industrial as part of a proposal for a potential data center development. This request, as previously stated, is being made for the purpose of seeking special use approval to allow for a data center under light industrial zoning. As I mentioned earlier, Newton County has identified the area as one being best suited for industrial development and heavy commercial properties such as large machinery repair, materials processing, and other non-retail uses. This site was previously in consideration for the location of a large-scale automotive manufacturing plant for Jaguar. A light industrial zoning designation is one that would be both compatible with the industrial character area that has been requested by the applicant and would also be least intensive that would potentially allow for a data center campus. Developments under light industrial zoning would be required to adhere to all development standards outlined in Section 3.4 as well as Article 7 of the UDC. Standards outlined in these regulations include maximum impervious surface ratio of 40%, 200-foot natural buffers on all sides that abut residential uses / zonings, state water buffer requirements, and others. A community meeting was held virtually on October 15th. However, aside from the applicant and their engineers, there were no other attendees. The range of uses for the proposed zoning district is in line with Newton County's comprehensive plan and future land use map, as well as the proposed character area for Social Circle's future land use map. There appears to be adequate school, public safety, emergency facilities available to support the proposed rezone request. However, while there does not appear to be any stormwater drainage issues on these properties at this time, stormwater management would be reviewed during the plan review phase and prior to the beginning of any development. Also, please note that Newton County Water and Sewer Authority are the service providers for the area. Staff recommends approval of the request to rezone the aforementioned parcels from agricultural to light industrial with the following condition. Condition being, primary access onto the property to include construction access must be along Highway 11, and all other access points such as those proposed along Hollis Road, Wildwood Drive, and Strouds Creek Road shall be for emergency use only.
Thank you. Any questions of staff on the staff report and recommendation for the rezoning? Okay. Hearing none. Ms. Sellers?
Good evening, Julie Sellers, 1776 Peachtree Street, Atlanta, Georgia. As it relates to the rezoning, we're obviously here asking for your recommendation of approval. Again, the zoning is consistent. I did, and I apologize for not picking up the Lakewood resident's last name, but traffic, I was going to point out, so Cody, thank you for mentioning, the primary access, and it's probably hard to see on the site plan, but it's on the other side of the railroad tracks going to Highway 11. So that is the primary access point, and we are in agreement with the condition for primary access to be on Highway 11 because of just sort of the size of this, certainly having other points for ingress and egress for emergency vehicles should that be needed, but we are certainly respectful of the nature of the local roads in the area and have always intended for the use, again, keeping in mind that a data center use, we're not talking about truck traffic, it's not distribution, you have employees that are working at the site, but it is relatively limited, especially when you're thinking about a parcel of this size. 980 acres is pretty big, and certainly significantly less traffic than I would say, maybe most other industrial uses, and certainly some of the other uses that have been proposed for the site. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have regarding the rezoning.
Any questions of the applicant at this time?
I do.
Yep.
Looking at this Exhibit A, is Wildwood Drive, is there an anticipated proposal to reroute the road?
There is. Do you want to speak to it? or you want me
Yes,
to?
Brad Caber, the applicant. Yes, that is the proposal. And currently, it's a dirt road, and we would propose to reroute it around the buildings. And again, that road would be used only as emergency access as required by the fire department and the plan reviewers. It's not intended at all to be accessed for employees to the site.
As big as this site is there any consideration to moving some of these buildings around?
The site offers, lends itself to a lot of flexibility. We feel we've placed the buildings kind of centric to the site to keep it as far away from people as possible. And what's not necessarily clear on the plan that you see with the buildings on it is that there's a parcel that we would own that is not part of this application because it's in the city already, so it's not part of the annexation application, and we're not requesting that it be rezoned to maintain a buffer between the rezoned piece and the existing residential property. That piece is about 57 acres. So you would have to imagine, I mean, you could see it on one of these slides, but there's 57 acres from the back of that northeast purple line.
Is that the one where the road reroutes?
Yes.
And if you see on the slide that we have, where we've pointed out that are not included in the application, those are the parcels that Brad was talking about. Those are already in social circle and would provide for that additional separation.
So to answer your question, yeah, we're certainly flexible on where to place the buildings. We feel we've put them in the least intrusive place on the property, just looking all the way around it and the people that live in the area. We also have some limitations with the road access, like we have to get to Highway 11 directly. We do have to cross the CSX rail, and we do have the transmission line where we're getting the power from. So there's some limitations on the substation. We want the buildings kind of as close as possible to the substation.
Okay. Do you have Ms. CSX given any approval on those crossovers?
The formal approval, I mean, there's already crossings on the rail now, so all we're doing is requesting upgrades to that just to further improve the situation. What we want is a bridge over the rail, and they've indicated they're willing to do that. It's just a matter of similar to just the plan review that the city would go through with our civil design.
Which one is the bridge?
So if you see that.
The north one off 11?
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
That's the proposed bridge, and there's an existing surface crossing just north of there.
Yeah. Okay. That's all I got.
Okay. Any other questions of the applicant on the rezoning request? All right. Thank you. There's no one that would speak in favor of the rezoning request, but we do have Ms. Cohenauer, who signed up to speak in opposition of the rezoning request. Would you like to speak again?
Catherine Cohenauer, 501 Lakewood Drive. Just voicing my concern and opposition to the rezone portion of this application, and along with I don't know all the addresses, but there's like a 614 and a 1064. I have a friend out of town. She's at 820. 1062. Yes, all of the people on Lakewood would like to oppose this as a group. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Now, Cody, would you like to introduce us to special use permit 2025-09?
Georgia Strouds Creek Land LLC is requesting special use approval to allow for the development of a data center under light industrial zoning at tax parcels S110009, 0122, 001A, 007A, 007B, 001, and 0111-005. Under Section 2.3.1 of the city's Unified Development Code, data centers are only permitted outright in heavy industrial zoning. However, special use approval may be sought to allow them under light industrial zoning. As shown on this proposed site plan, Exhibit A, the development would be constructed across 6 different parcels totaling approximately 980 acres and would consist of 12 separate single-story buildings, an electrical substation, and 2 additional buildings for support operations. Additionally, Exhibit A also indicates the creation of 5 separate entrances along Strouds Creek Road, Wildwood Drive, Highway 11, and Hollis Road. It is not clear, however, which roads would be for primary and/or construction uses and which would be for emergency uses. However, as the applicant has indicated, it seems that Highway 11 would be the primary use, with the others only be an emergency. While Exhibit A does not appear to identify the total building area of the proposed development, under Section 2.1.5 of the UDC, maximum impervious surface ratio allowed for developments under light industrial zoning is 40%. Therefore, if approved, the applicant and developer would be required to adhere to this requirement along with all other site standards as outlined within Section 3.4 for industrial uses and Article 7 for environmental protection of the UDC. A community meeting was held virtually on October 15th. However, aside from the applicant and their engineers, there were no other attendees. The proposed use is compatible with the current character area of the properties as designated by Newton County, as well as its designation of a mega site as listed by Newton County and other state agencies. Given the residential uses and zonings of the adjacent properties, the proposed development would be required at a minimum to have a 200-foot natural buffer on all sides as outlined in Section 3.4 of the UDC. The proposed development appears to fall within the parameters outlined in Section 3.4.6.A of the UDC, which regulates data centers. There appears to be adequate school, public safety, emergency facilities available for the proposed annexation and zoning requests. However, while there does not appear to be any stormwater drainage issues on the properties, stormwater management will be reviewed during the plan review phase and prior to the beginning of any development. Also, as previously mentioned, while there are currently no natural gas services available in this area, if needed, gas services can be run down to the development at the expense of the developer. Lastly, this area falls within the Newton County Water and Sewer Authority service area. The applicant has provided a letter from the former which states that there is a 24-inch water line in the area located along the easement parallel with the railroad. However, they further added that there are no sewer lines currently adjacent to the property. They also indicated that the confirmation of services was not a commitment of water or sewer capacity and relayed their expectation of any large development on these properties to utilize a closed-loop water cooling system or some type of reuse. The applicant also provided a power letter from Georgia Power with regard to availability of power resource for the area. However, as with the water letter, it was not a confirmation of commitment, but rather just giving an indication of what was available. Staff recommends approval of the request for special use to allow for a potential data center campus under light industrial zoning at the aforementioned parcels with the following condition. Condition being primary access onto the property to include construction access must be along Highway 11, and all other access points such as those proposed along Hollis Road, Wildwood Drive, and Strouds Creek Road shall be for emergency use only.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Sellers, y'all like to come up?
Good evening, Julie Sellers, 1776 Peachtree Street, Atlanta. As it relates to the special use permit, we are here seeking a special use permit for a data center. Again, not to keep going back to sort of the designation of the site, but I think it's very important because when we're thinking about the use of a property this large, this is the opportunity for the city to have say-so in what is developed here. And we do believe that when you look at the variety of different industrial uses, a data center use, especially one that's been designed to really kind of be internal to the site, if you will. You know, we're separated even from Highway 11 by the railroad. It is not something that is going to overshadow. It's not going to be right up on the road. And certainly the intensity of use of a data center is something that is needed. It is a growing need that we are seeing in the country and certainly in Georgia and in your area. We are not the first to come before you, we know that, but we do think that this site makes sense given the designation, given the size. I think when I look at it, this is something that really does stick out because of the ability to so significantly buffer the use and really kind of create it internal to the site. That is a huge asset that this site allows compared to other sites that are smaller in nature. Again, the conversations, as you all know, the process of finalizing agreements with Georgia Power, finalizing agreements with Newton County, that is something that will be an ongoing, but we have been in conversations and have provided you letters. We know that that's something important to this board, and you want to have the assurances that those conversations have been taking place and that steps are being taken to make sure that all of the appropriate agreements are in place. And we do feel comfortable with what the county and Georgia Power have responded with for this being a viable site.
I do have some questions based upon the site. Yes, go ahead.
Sorry, Brad Kaber. May I just add to what Julie said?
Yeah.
And I'll specifically just address a few things about utilities as well. As Julie said, we do have the serve letters from Georgia Power and Newton County Water and Sewer, which come with standard qualifications. They're not the contracts that we would end up signing. For example, 693 megawatts with Georgia Power, it's a contract that requires hundreds of millions of dollars of cost upfront to build substations, to have work done on the transmission lines. Those are things that just simply can't be done without a massive commitment, which can't be done until property is zoned and owned and plan. Much design has gone into it. Same thing with water and sewer. Newton County Water and Sewer, we've had extensive conversations with them. There's a 24-inch brand new water main that fronts this property. They've known about the mega site for some time. They've planned for a large water use there. In addition, there's the Stanton Springs, apologies, I want to make sure I get the terminology right. The Stanton Springs Water Resource Center, which is a project in the works with Newton County Water and Sewer, where they're going to have over 5 million gallons of reuse water available at completion. And that's the type of water we're going to take for our cooling systems, which is 1.8 million gallons per day peak. So that would be at 10 days a year, and on average only less than 30 days a year at that peak demand. So we have we know where we're getting water from with Newton County Water and Sewer. The letter is all we can get until we actually sign agreements with them. That water is available until it's taken, and then it's not available. So if someone happened to take that 5 million gallons ahead of us, it wouldn't be available. As of now, it's available to us. It's a huge amount of water, and those are the conversations we've had with Newton County Water and Sewer. And same thing with Georgia Power. We know where the power is coming from. We know the cost to get it, and simply the next step is to sign the agreements with both those utility providers.
I was going to lead into some of my questions. I noticed the letter from Newton County Water and Sewer Authority didn't state a available capacity. It just says what infrastructure they have to the site. I don't know what their capacity is. I've sat in meetings and read in newspaper that Newton County Water and Sewer Authority has said their service will not extend to beyond any additional data centers because they've got one planned in Porterdale, one that they're in partnership with on Alcovey Road, and I believe one other that they've committed to. So, it does concern me that there's not an availability of water demand. It just says what infrastructure is there. You're right. They planned for this historic heartland mega site since 2017, and they have the infrastructure in place as of 2021, 2022, coming from Cornish Creek over to Stanton Grove to try to bring water to that reuse facility to serve potentially the Rivian site and Stanton Springs. So they've done a good job with bringing infrastructure. I just don't know what capacity they have because, again,
yeah, they have 5.25 million gallons as of that's available now, at least as of the last conversation I had with them, which was very recent.
Yeah,
but they're not going to put that in writing
until you pay a
That's
deposit.
Right.
Yep.
That's correct.
Okay. So looking at your site plan, it is unique in the fact that you guys are pulling back away from the roads, the visibility, that I can appreciate. I noticed these are 1-story 12 pod. Can you explain to me what a pod means?
It's effectively just sections of server equipment, and you size the building per pod is all. So they do range in size. There's an 8 pod, a 10 pod, and a 12 pod. Most of them are 12 pod buildings, and it's more to do with the topography and how it just kind of lays out on the site.
Okay. So that's new, and I'm learning something here. In terms of square footage, how many square feet are these buildings? A 12 pod.
250,000 square feet.
So 250,000 square feet. And I'm terrible at math, so please forgive me. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 buildings that are 12 pod at 250,000 square foot, then 1 8 pod and 2 10 pods. I'm assuming the 8 pod is 175,000 square foot.
I don't recall off the top of my head. Apologies.
You're not a mathematician either.
No.
All right. So we've got over 3 million square foot of a building, correct? How many parking spaces are you proposing for 3 million square foot of building?
We don't have it shown on the plan in detail. We'd accept the 7 per 1,000 that we took last time.
1 per 7,000?
Yeah, it was 1 per 7,000.
Sorry, 1 per 7,000.
1 per
Yes.
7,000
Yes,
square
sir.
feet.
That is a lot of parking if you're over 3 million square foot. And again,
well, we're not over 3 million square feet. Sorry, the total shown in this plan is under 2.5 million.
see, I'm not a mathematician. I let Apple do my
And
calculation.
we say a lot of parking relative to the building. It's less than the code minimum for industrial and social circle now.
I understand.
I mean,
this-
granted, 2.5 million square feet of anything is just a lot of anything, but the parking is in a low proportion to the building area.
I get that, but looking at if the intended use doesn't provide but 35 jobs per building, I don't want to overbuild more concrete and asphalt than we absolutely need to. But nonetheless, let's move forward.
We
Yes, sir.
don't either. It doesn't benefit us at all to have spots that aren't used. It's added development costs that we would otherwise not need.
Right.
So we would design to a minimal set of stalls just for employee change.
Okay. Yeah, and that's what
It's not an industrial building where you maximize parking, you maximize trailer storage, and that's the market value of that building. This is not that.
Yeah, and that's some of the things that I'm thinking about long term, the impacts. Yes, less parking you guys have to provide the better it is for your bottom dollar, less grading, less impervious area,
Yes, sir.
potentially reducing detention facilities, so on and so forth. I notice you're going one story. You were here before us earlier this year. Everyone else that's before us has proposed 2-story.
This site's very large. It's easy to go horizontal on this site.
Okay. But if you went vertical, you could reduce your footprint of the site?
We could.
Okay. Is that an option?
Certainly.
Okay.
The reality is no one's gonna see these buildings from really any perspective outside the property line.
That's
So
the hope.
two-story, usually we don't want to go taller. There's more opposition to a taller building where people are more
Visual.
likely to see it. So that's the only real logic that was used here.
And when I looked at it, well, for the cost factor, for, spreading your cost out, you're not saving any money by doubling your amount of buildings, and you're not saving any money by going vertical one more story. Your cost of development are about a wash. You might have a little more in development cost because you're getting 12 buildings versus 6. So that's why I was trying to wrap my head around why 1 story.
Yeah, just
Okay.
generally that's what gets the least opposition or
Sure.
shorter buildings.
Yep. Okay. All right, I think that's all the questions I have at this moment for the special use permit request. I may have more after the public hearing. Anybody else have questions?
With the information from Georgia Power and Newton County, how soon do you plan on starting this? If, obviously.
Yeah, next summer.
You get approvals and you have everything else in place, when would you plan on starting?
Next summer.
Next summer?
Yes, sir.
Do you have an end user agreement?
That was my
Agreement? No.
So this is speculative.
No, it's not. We wouldn't be able to get a user agreement without owning the land and having it zoned, is the reality.
So it's speculative. You don't
In that
have-
sense.
Yeah, you don't have someone who says, "Hey, Brad, I'm ready for a data center. I need you to build one. Can you have it up in 19 months
Well, we
or
do
24 months?"
Well, we don't have that in writing, what you just said, because no development would have that at this stage. If they're here at a podium for a zoning meeting, unless they.
Well, we
have
had
it-
that in September.
Unless they are the user who is the applicant, I
Okay.
suppose.
Okay. Well, again, I appreciate that. Any other questions? Thank you. We'll open up the public hearing. You're welcome to sit close because we may have other additional questions.
Thank you.
We had one person sign up to speak, but she's not here. Let the record show is Andrea Gray. She has left. We do have a few people that would like to speak in opposition. Mr. Wendell Pitts, and it looks like he is gone as well. Doug Hawkins.
Thank you for listening to me. This particular property is right across the road from me. I live at 920 Lakewood Drive, and you'll see a couple of addresses there. The owner of the property I'm familiar with, so I can address it. I'd like to first of all back up and address something that was in the annexation. The annexation itself doesn't address the road that runs through there, which is Wildwood Drive, and I think that has to be addressed separately. Since it wasn't addressed as annexed, Newton County's got to be compensated for the road value and need to be addressed, but it wasn't addressed. Secondly, as close as we live on Lakewood Drive, fortunately we've got, for the most part, 5 and more acres per tract per lot there. So it's very few families that are there, but we're real close, and the homes are, as I said, somewhat reserved for 5 acres. So I'd like to ask, first of all, I know that the that the staff has reviewed that and asked for restrictions on Lakewood Drive to make that just an emergency exit. When the construction is not going on, we need to keep the construction off of Lakewood Drive altogether. They've addressed it, and I agree with it, and all of the folks in the neighborhood agree with it. The other thing that I would like to see addressed, I know that we're better off than it was in Newton County with the heavy industrial, but light industrial with the data center still has some factors that we've addressed. The water seems to be addressed reasonably adequate. But it would be advisable to us if there was any way to move the 3 buildings that are on the north side of the 45-acre lake. I don't think it can be moved back anymore, and there's a very small buffer there between that and Lakewood Drive, and a resident right across from there. So if that group of buildings could be moved down to the lower section, it would be much, much better for us. And there are 3 exits on that side anyway. And then we could just totally eliminate the exit that's on Lakewood Drive. I don't think it would really, and when we do the count, traffic count, they seem to overlook the fact that there's construction going on for 2 to 3 years prior to it being these few people that are going to be working there. So that's imperative that we address that, or I feel like it is. There are other adequate accesses to there. I see that they did reroute Wildwood Drive, which again is, some of that was in Newton County, so it's eliminated. But it was rerouted around the north side of the lake rather than on the south side. You know, I don't have a problem with that. It's still the same problem as far as not a very wide access. And even on Lakewood Drive, we've only got roughly a 40-foot right-of-way in there. And that road has been closed down that it goes through over on the Newton County side. So if we could address the building that's closest to Lakewood and eliminate that exit that's on Lakewood altogether, it would help us. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Cohenauer?
Me again, Catherine Cohenauer, 501 Lakewood, and just won't take up your time because all that stuff that he said.
All right, thank you. All right. Ms. Sellers, Brad, y'all have any, you have time for rebuttal?
Yeah, again, on the road access, we're only showing the secondary access points on the back of the property as any, you know, potential what may be required of us. We are, again, certainly agreeable to keep all construction and permanent access to primarily be off of Highway 11.
Okay.
I'm not familiar with where Lakewood Road is. It's
Stroud's Creek.
That's Stroud's Creek. Yeah, the buildings are already, I think, you know, over 700 feet from that road now, and there is a transmission line between the buildings and that road. They're set back quite far from that road, and in fact, that road's not even paved from, I think, where that road
Where your
starts on the
driveway-
property
where your-
line.
where
Yes.
your driveway is approximate is when the pavement stops, I believe.
Yeah, so we would.
Sorry, it's messed up.
It's already quite buffered there, I guess, is what I would say about the site plan. The scale is hard to understand because if you see the scale on the bottom right of the sheet, that's 800 feet. We're probably over 1,000 feet from that road now, as drawn. So again, this was just the most secluded site you could really find anywhere. 1,000 acres is a huge site, rare to find. It won't be, you know, like the other applicant that was here where he's on the road, limited in area. It's gonna be, no one's gonna know this is here. And again, if it's in this city as opposed to the county had shown a site plan of over 4 million square feet of heavy industrial use. And I just feel like this is a far better use for the folks that live around this area.
The existing power line, has there been any indication from Georgia Transmission? I don't know who owns that power line, if that's Georgia Power, if that's Georgia Transmission. Do you have any idea? So,
I'm not the person in my office who
okay.
deals with that. I believe it's GTC.
Okay. Your substation is coming in at a unique location for your site.
Yes.
Where does that substation feed from?
The transmission line.
So it would come across the lake?
Yes, it's probably going to need to be tweaked slightly. I would say with a lot of confidence, it wouldn't need to be moved anywhere outside of where building footprints are shown on here.
Okay.
But it's to be determined if that is the best spot for the placement of the substation.
What I'd like to avoid is the placement of any additional large transmission carrying poles on others' property. I wasn't sure if you were trying to feed this from Highway 11 or Hollis Road
No.
and come in, because it is a lot closer. I'm not aware of what infrastructure that Georgia Transmission may have for that area other than light residential use. So that's why I asked about the access for
Yeah, I mean, what makes the
power.
site great also, besides just the limited density, which by the way is only like 6%
Yep.
at 2.5 million square feet over almost 1,000 acres, is the fact that there is the transmission line right there. The water line is at the property now. There's no work that I'm aware of that needs to happen off the property other than the sewer, which is addressed in that sewer letter. It's just about a mile south.
Yeah.
And we can get there completely through right-of-way, existing right-of-way. And there's already an ongoing project there now by Newton County Water and Sewer. Just driving
Down
here
Highway
today,
11.
I saw all the pipe on the side of the road on Highway 11 by I-20.
Site look familiar, right?
It does.
Yeah. Chief, Fire Chief, I'm gonna put you on the spot. The access onto Lakewood that's being proposed or shown, would that give you any heartburn if that were to go away? Take a lot of,
Well, let me rephrase that. Until I see an accurate site plan, I wouldn't answer that. You're gonna need that many buildings or that large of buildings, you're gonna need multiple access points. You're also gonna need multiple access points so we can get a fire truck over it. The Hollis Road is not an option. There's too much arch. You're not crossing a fire truck over it. So, there's some things that gotta be considered in there. You wanna be able to come at this thing from multiple directions, so depending upon where a fire's at, based on environmental conditions and stuff like that, you wanna be able to access it from multiple points. It may be necessary to have that, but until you see a site plan and I know where substations are and buildings are set, that's really not something I can answer, but that was something we would handle at site or civil review and plan review. If it's not needed, I wouldn't require it, or we wouldn't require it, and if it is, then, it'd be based off the buildings and you'd have to look at it.
I was just trying to.
May not be the answer, but.
No, that's the correct answer I was asking is, if it can be done away with.
If the other two access points are suitable, then yeah, it could be. I know unless they're gonna make some serious improvements to Hollis, that's not an option.
Yeah. Okay.
Their trucks won't, the wheelbase of them trucks are not gonna cross that. The other thing with buildings this large, we're not just talking about getting a fire engine, you're talking about getting a 78,000-pound ladder truck that's 60 feet or 50 feet long. You gotta be pretty.
Yeah, I mean, the radiuses on some of these turns are not realistic. It's just for illustrative purposes. Okay. Thank you, Chief. As far as site development, looks good on a flat sheet of paper. I know there's been some LiDAR on the site. I know that there's a very expensive drone in the bottom of that lake that had a LiDAR on it. But
I'll try to get it if I can, if I see it.
It's
I know where
it's
to return.
toast. It's toast, man. Talk to me about the site will have to be mass graded areas, obviously around the building pad, the substation, the roads getting in. Is it your intent to look at disturbance outside of those immediate areas?
No, not as otherwise required, just to grade the building pads.
Okay.
No.
Building pads, road, detention ponds, substation, just those areas of disturbance?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Because you do have some critical areas with streams, state waters, the pond.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and our intent is to,
Who did?
not impact any streams. There's really no need to impact any streams with a site this large, so we have tons of flexibility to not need to do that whatsoever.
Okay. Yes, sir, Chief.
I was gonna ask, quickly, if you don't mind, which you may have just answered it with not affecting the water. That's a class 1 dam, according to,
It's an EPD.
It's class 1 dam.
Yeah.
So that, and then you go, of course, the downstream of that dam, the runarounds to that dam feed the pond at 5 acres, and of course it goes down further, so just, grading around that dam and protecting that class 1 dam.
Yeah.
We're gonna wanna stay this side of that dam.
Yep.
Which
That's
is
why
what
your
we've attempted to show here.
your road is upstream and not across the dam. I understand. Yep. I've had my fair share of EPD and safe dams. Trying to understand, wrap my head around the impact of your proposal, and I appreciate it. There may be other questions. Any other questions that planning commission members have before we close this public hearing? Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
So, planning commission members, we have 4 recommendations to make. First one being annexation. We all remember back in 2017, 2016, when Newton County spent a lot of money and got the site grad certified and was trying to locate an automotive manufacturing facility here. This is unique because now this opportunity can bring this property into the city limits, and we could have a say at what's at our doorstep. And I say it's at our doorstep because it is, coming right up Highway 11, while you can't see exactly very much of the property, but the potential impacts. So this affords us an opportunity to kind of control our destination, our gateway, being that it's proposing to be annexed. Any thoughts on that? Any discussion the planning commission would like to have on the annexation part? Okay, any concerns anyone has about annexing? Okay, is seeing none, the chair will entertain a motion for the request to annex all the property that we just talked about. I'm not gonna read all those, sorry.
I'll make a motion to annex and to recommend annexing the property.
I second.
So we have a motion and a second to recommend the mayor and council to annex all the property that's under consideration. And Cody, you can fill in the details. Are there any other discussion on the annexation? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. All right. All those opposed? No one's opposed? Okay. So for the future land use map amendment to designate the properties from Newton County future land use to Social Circle future land use. The request is for industrial. And here's where, we could be unique. We recommended approval to annex. The applicant, we know what their proposed project is. We could follow the staff's recommendation on the future land use. Or we can recommend a different future land use. If a different one, we could look at something with agriculture or whatever else. So with that said, are there any comments, questions, concerns about the future land use amendment? And this would be to change it from Newton County's future land use to the industrial character area of the Social Circle future land use map. basically you gotta ask yourself, is this property, is industrial appropriate for this property? It's what they want, it's what Newton County has identified it as. It's what Newton County has been marketing this property for some time as. But, you know, what say you? Is industrial appropriate for this property? Okay, hearing no discussions, Chair will entertain a motion.
I make a motion to accept.
Okay, is this a motion to accept as proposed
It's
to
proposed
industrial?
from the
And-
industrial.
And there's a second, okay. All those in favor of the future land use map request amendment from Newton County to Social Circle's industrial character area, signify by raising your hand. Okay, motion passed unanimous. And so on the zoning, again, we have a unique ability here. We've recommended approval of the annexation, recommended approval of the industrial character area. For the rezoning, we have a recommendation by staff to approve with a condition. Conditions of zoning run with property until the applicant or property owner request a change in conditions. So it takes it before the planning commission and mayor and council again. Something that may be considered are some conditions of zoning to run with the property. They're requesting rezoning from agriculture to light industrial. I'm very leery of speculative zoning changes because what could happen is the unintended consequences. If we're looking at the bodies feeling confident with recommending approval of the requested light industrial, consider some zoning conditions that run with the property. Something along the lines of no structure shall be located between the railroad and Highway 11. You know, that's no structure, period. No structure located.
You want a list?
You have a list?
I have a list.
Let's hear it.
This is my, not making a motion currently.
Just some discussion points.
This is discussion points. Any access off of Strouds Creek would meet whatever the minimum requirement is. Not to exceed whatever they deem to be, but it needs to be kept to a minimum.
Would that be emergency access only?
Emergency
John?
access only, yes. And that would be, I guess, whatever the fire department would require to be able to access it with their equipment.
Okay.
I think it was mentioned earlier by the applicant, any access for construction or normal everyday egress or exit would be completely off Highway 11.
Okay.
Regards to Lakewood, or not Lakewood, my apologies, Wildwood. They mentioned they would be rerouting it as a fair amount of that road is through their property. That road be brought up to a minimum standard of local street type NRUDC. At minimum. That being certain, whatever, I don't have it right in front of me anymore, but minimum easement, minimum size road.
Minimum right of way for a local street.
Correct. And from the north land line, I guess it's kind of broke up, but basically from Lakewood, Strouds Creek, all the way back to the railroad, minimum 1,000-foot buffer.
1,000-foot buffer from Strouds Creek?
The line from Strouds Creek over to the railroad, whatever that property line is. From that property line, 1,000-foot buffer. Does that make sense?
So from the property line along Strouds Creek, 1,000?
No, go back
I'm
up.
sorry. Up here?
No, the corner where it hits Strouds Creek Road right there.
Yes, sir.
Follow that property line all the way to the railroad. And following the actual property line across the north side.
Oh, this?
Anything from that line south, 1,000-foot buffer.
Okay.
you also own property on the other side of that purple line intended to be a buffer.
Yes.
Are we saying 1,000?
Yeah, it's the property line, the furthest north property line.
Oh, including
Yes,
that, not just following the purple?
right.
Okay. That's my rendition.
So he wants it from,
West to east.
This property
along
line.
north to east.
so from the property line that's not included in the application. Okay.
Not sure how you do that as a
I'm not,
condition of zoning.
I'm not sure if you can condition a property that's not in the application.
Not part of the application.
Yeah, I don't think we can condition that property. That's not part of the application.
Okay, then I'll change my recommendation.
Oh,
Well,
so
your
are you,
idea,
I was about to say, are you
It's
making?
discussion.
I
It's a
was,
recommendation,
yeah.
not a motion.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure for the record if you were making a motion or if these
Not a
are
motion.
just discussion
Not
points.
a motion.
Okay,
From the shown property line in the application, 500 feet
Okay. From the purple,
from the purple.
okay. Okay. From Strouds Creek to the railroad, okay?
Right.
Makes sense?
Following the purple from
Okay.
Strauss Creek across to the railroad.
Okay. And that's undisturbed or planted?
Undisturbed
Okay.
buffer.
Okay. All right, anything else?
That's my list.
Okay, how about, yes, sir.
Can you go over your first one again? About no structure, between, I think you said between the railroad and Highway 11?
That was me.
Oh, that was you.
just
Oh,
throwing
okay.
out discussion
Sorry,
items.
okay.
Yeah.
That was throwing out discussion items.
Gotcha.
Yeah, mine was the Strauss Creek Road access, construction and daily traffic off Highway 11. And then the street type and then the buffer.
So 500-foot buffer. Okay.
And that may be what they have here. Obviously, there's no scale to
Yeah,
it.
so, yeah, it's kind of gonna be hard to scale that.
Right.
Okay. So you,
They may already be inside that.
that's some discussion items. As we've asked others, consider, closed loop cooling system. Lighting, parking, things like that. What are y'all's thoughts? Do y'all have any ideas or thoughts on that? For, sorry. To repeat that, some other things to think about are limiting the cooling systems to a closed loop cooling versus evaporative cooling.
I think that would be a good one, and it's
Um,
also mentioned in their letter from Newton County
Yep,
as a discussion point.
Yep, but as conditions of zoning that would run with the property. Parking, any discussion, concerns about parking, put a maximum number of parking spaces?
I want to say the number we've used in the past is like 35 per building. I've heard that somewhere. When I ran the math, that's within 15 of the 1 per 7,000.
Yeah, okay.
So, I mean,
Maximum of 35 per building?
yeah, and I think that's adequate for all that space.
All right. I'm just jotting down some of these ideas. Any discussion or concern about lighting and parking lot light, building lights to reduce the glare and nuisance at night?
I don't remember what the UDC says about.
The UDC already has requirements in there for site lighting for these types of developments. Such requirements include downward lighting, things of that nature. There's a certain brightness that they can be. I don't think it can exceed 7-foot candles from the base. Those types of things are already included in the UDC and looked at as part of the civil plan review.
Do we have anything in there, Cody, in regards to automatic
Motion detection.
Motion detection light,
I'm not sure off the top of my head. I have to go back and look.
that might be something to consider. I mean, it is kind of off the beaten path, but at the same time.
Yeah, but you get a lot of light in there.
Yeah,
then
you don't wanna
all of a
create a
sudden
horizon.
You're gonna, yeah.
I don't know what the topography is, so I don't know how high it sits.
All right, and again, some of these are just ideas about conditions of zoning. And, you know, the site plan provided is just a concept, but I'd hate to see this come back and turn around and there's a lot more building area and it's a completely different than what we saw. I'm not saying the applicant would do that, but based upon engineering, you know, and this is speculative, we don't know what the end user demand would be. And obviously this is not something that gets built overnight. This is likely a multi-year process, like all the other data centers. So
What about the noise?
well, I think, I can't answer what the noise would be, other than I think the idea with the buffers and the distance is to help mitigate any impacts any residents would hear. But I can't speak to the noise that it would generate. Obviously, you know, I think you're gonna get more construction noise during construction phases than you will the data center noise. I don't know.
Will he need more than this 693 MVA? Because this is all that they're saying that they can provide, so will they need somebody else, or will this gonna be appropriate enough to put it?
The 693 megawatts,
Mm-hmm.
you know, again, I think that's what Georgia Power, that's what their engineers have said that this site needs. Georgia Power said they could provide that, but what it's not saying is how soon can Georgia Power provide it? It may be multi-years. And it could be that while Georgia Power has the capacity to provide it and get them there, it's on the applicant, the developer, to pay for it.
Okay.
And, you know, we all know Georgia Power is asking for the Public Service Commission to create additional energy and electricity. Who's gonna pay for that? It's gonna be us. So, okay. Well, are there any other discussion items on the rezoning request? If not, I'll entertain a motion for rezoning.
I'll make a motion to rezone it with all of the recommendations that Cody has written down. And I wanna add one more. On, I guess it's the north side. No structure north of the power line,
So,
other than secure gate and fencing, that type of thing.
so no structure between the power line and Strauss Creek?
Correct.
Okay.
Can I get a clarification for the record? Does that include the condition of no building between the railroad and Highway 11?
Have you got it written down?
No, that was, Scott said that was just a suggestion as a talking point. I didn't know that was an actual recommendation.
I'll add it. No structure between the rail and Highway 11.
So the railroad? No, the railroad. That's power line.
Oh, sorry.
So no
Okay,
structure
I see
between
what
the
you're
power line and Strauss Creek, no structure between the railroad and Highway 11. Okay, so we have a motion, but for the applicant's sake, for the sake of
You want me to read them?
the minutes,
Yeah.
the motion is to approve the request to rezone to light industrial with the following conditions. Condition 1, Strauss Creek access shall be emergency only and constructed to the minimum standard established by the city. Item 2 is construction activity on site shall only be accessed from Highway 11. Number 3, Wildwood Road shall be, during relocation, shall be brought up to the minimum standards for a local street as established by the UDC and to include right-of-way. 4, a 500-foot buffer along the designated line from Strauss Creek all the way to the railroad. 5, closed-loop cooling system shall be used. Evaporative cooling methods are prohibited. 6, a maximum of 35 parking spaces per building. 7, no building shall be constructed or no structure shall be placed between the power line and Strauss Creek. And 8, no structure between Highway 11 and the railroad. Does that summarize your motion?
Yes.
Okay. There's a motion. Is there a second? All right, we have a second. Any other discussion? Everyone feel okay about this? No other discussion? All those in favor of the motion with the conditions? Oh, and John, did yours also include the staff recommendation? I mean, it kind of summarized it in it, just to verify.
Yes.
Okay. With no other, and Ms. Brown, your second included that as well?
Yes.
Okay. No other discussion, all those in favor of the recommendation and the motion, please signify by raising your hand. All right. Okay. No one is opposed to that. That was unanimous. Now the special use permit. So the special use permit request is to construct a data center. Any discussion items that the planning commission would like to have about the data center besides, and we have staff's recommendation with approval with condition.
What were their conditions?
Let me find it again. The condition was that primary access be off of Highway 11 with all other proposed accesses being for emergency use only.
Okay.
I would like potentially for this body to consider the idea of that construction shall begin, so the special use permit is not just sitting there
12 months.
lingering.
12 months.
Okay,
That's my recommendation.
okay, so,
Recommendation.
okay. So we have a recommendation for a condition that the special use permit construction shall begin within 12 months of approval. Okay? Any other discussion items? Questions on that? Okay. Would you like to make that as a, chair will entertain a motion?
I'll make it a motion with that recommendation.
So we have a motion to approve the special use permit for data center at this property with staff recommendation and a condition, staff's condition, and your condition of construction must begin within 12 months. Okay? Is there a second? All right, we have a second. Any other discussion? Okay. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. All right, motion passed unanimous. Okay, we've gotten through the bulk of our agenda. We have one more item.
All right. The last public hearing is for the consideration of amendments to the City of Circles Unified Development Code, sections 13.2.4 and 13.2.8 regarding mail notices and community meetings. So I'll just go ahead and give everybody time that wants to leave to go ahead and leave. So.
whoever.
So,
Is this the one where they've been doing the Zoom meetings?
yes, so this one, based on the recent zoning applications, that have come forward regarding, annexation, data centers and such, we've seen an uptick in, the applications that trigger community meetings, to be held virtually. And while that is an option for some people, who can attend in person, the majority of these meetings have had a lack of attendance, and it's raised an issue of concern, that, maybe not everybody has that method to attend the meetings. An in-person option should be required. So staff is recommending that there be a requirement that community meetings be held in person, and then there can be an option of virtual in addition to those that can attend in person, but it has to be held in person. Additionally, within that same regard of public notices, currently the UDC states that mailed notices are only required to be mailed to adjacent property owners that are currently within the city limits. However, with annexations and things as such, we think, given the impact of these decisions, that the mail notices should be sent out to all property owners, adjacent property owners, both in and outside the city limits. So in your packet, I have highlighted the recommended changes. So the first recommendation for mailed notices, section 13.2.4, where it says nearby property owners, staff has made the recommendation to change the wording to the following. All property owners whose property boundaries lie adjacent to the boundaries of the subject property by the most direct distance, to include those located both in and outside the incorporated limits of the city of Social Circle, shall receive notice.
So in other words, if your property touches the subject property, it doesn't matter whether you're in the city or the county, you're gonna get a notice.
Correct. So, the other recommended change for section 13.2.8 regarding community meetings under subsection C, the addition of the second condition there, community meetings must be held at a physical location and conducted in person. A virtual option of attendance may be offered in conjunction with the in-person meeting for any community members that would otherwise be unable to attend. So those are the two recommendations for.
Can we edit these?
Hmm?
I'd like to take the word may out and put shall or must. In other words, the way it's written right now and the way it's written currently and the way you have it changed is it's one option or the other.
Make it both.
Let's make it mandatory to do both. You have to have an in-person with an option for virtual if somebody cannot be there. Versus you either show up or we do it virtual. Make it where they have to provide the virtual option, even if nobody wants it.
For those that can't attend.
Right, for somebody that's unable to attend, they are able to get on virtually.
Yeah.
But also they have to have an in-person location so that people can come and sit and ask questions. That's my
I like
2
that.
cents.
Yeah, makes sense. I mean, it doesn't take anything other than set up a laptop and get Zoom going.
Correct. And if somebody doesn't have the capability, then, you know, their option is to go to the meeting.
Come to a meeting.
Okay. All right, well, Cody, thanks for the staff recommendation on that. There's no one that's signed up to speak for or against. As the applicant, would you like to have any rebuttal?
No.
Didn't think so. Any discussion items? If not, the chair will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion with the recommendation of changing the wording on the meeting requirement.
Okay. We have a unanimous second there. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Motion passes unanimous. Thank you so much. Are there any? Okay, our November meeting was canceled. Is that correct? Okay. And then potentially we have a meeting in December, right? Okay. Wow. Wow. Okay. At this time, Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? All right, motion is second. All those in favor, raise your hand. This meeting's adjourned. Thank you, folks.